I just thought I'd do that for dramatic effect. Hello, guys. Welcome to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk. This is your 8th edition of the weekly Steelchair podcast. Probably better than Monday Night Raw at the minute. To be fair, that's not exactly hard. That's not exactly hard. But as usual, it's me, it's Reece, your host. I'm totally not DDP. I can't do it. I don't have his initials. But anyway, it is me, of course. Back again with Eilidh. It's been quite a while. I've not spoken to her since, I believe it was before Christmas. It's been quite a while. And of course, live from the States. That's going to be fun. It's, of course, Conor, a good friend of mine, Yank talking smack, or in his case, talking shit. But that's all that matters. It's good banter. It's a good laugh. But may as well ask, how are you?
Doing all right. It's about time for lunch, so I'm about to order some food. It's half 11 at the moment.
Shocking. And what about you, Eilidh? Notice I see a little bit of brilliant hardware on your shoulder.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought, a lot of the discussion about Elimination Chamber is going to be about titles, about championships. So I thought I'll bring my own. I didn't win it in a fight. I bought it for £1 out of a charity shop. But I was like, hey, cheap prop, it'll do. So here we are. But yeah, doing pretty well. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Day off. After this, I'm going on a social media break. I'm going to be off my socials for about 4 days, so that's going to be fun. And it'll just be nothing on my mind for 4 days. But hey ho. And you know what they say? £1, but it's still worth more than the shit they actually use right now.
Exactly. There's history in this.
Exactly. Prestige, history. We will come to that. So tonight is purely reviewing the Chamber, and obviously we're going to discuss a few decisions that may have angered the panel, I think is the best way to describe it, although I say that loosely. I know exactly how we all feel. Then obviously we're going to discuss the upcoming Madison Square Garden event, which is March 15th, pathway to WrestleMania, what we would like to see. This isn't really an in-depth discussion, as we will be doing WrestleMania down the line. We may look at a WrestleMania watch along. Like, it's going to be done throughout the entire community, which obviously if yourselves want to get involved, let me know and I'll gladly have you on. And then obviously at the very end, it will be the Undisputed Quiz Champion of the podcast, Keane, will be making an appearance to defend his crown in a triple threat match. Can he do better than his competitors last week, which is obviously Andrew and Vicky, who appeared on the show to challenge Keane? Keane defend his crown. Question is, will he this week? We'll find out. But anyway, we may as well deep dive in it. We're just going to go through it. Probably one of the most pointless matches on the card, in my opinion. But the opening match was on the pre-show. It was Miz versus Rey Mysterio. I think I'm going to say outright they got two things wrong. One, Dominic Mysterio is still a babyface. And two, the Miz lost. Your thoughts on that? I'll start with you, Eilidh.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, Dominic Mysterio is a very heelish face. Like, we're getting sort of the Lucha House Party vibes. If you remember when they were cheating against Survival, it led to a 3-on-1 handicap match in Saudi Arabia, funnily enough, against Name Redacted. And it
gives
was
me Chavo vibes.
Yeah, the whole psychology of that was that the baby faces had more on their team than the heels, which is obviously just totally against the obvious turn of events that you'd expect. And on the one hand, you're like, okay, it's creative. On the other, you're like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm not one of these people that's for the idea of Dominic Mysterio feuding with Rey Mysterio, but I would like to see them have a match. But I don't think you need to put a story in that match. I think you could bare bones just say Rey Mysterio wants to fight his son before he retires, which will be pretty soon. What I will say about the decision for Miz to lose the match is it led to some fantastic baiting from the Miz following that. And I don't know if you maybe caught the little vignette almost. It was like the interviews they do for WWE.
It was brilliant. It was a quality vignette.
But when he's like, "Oh, I need someone with similarly handsome features," and obviously, I mean, Miz knows how to play the game. He's an absolute genius.
Yeah.
And then we saw who it was on Raw, and again, I'm not on Twitter, but I imagine it exploded.
What a disappointment!
No comment.
Just like the Miz's career, when he looks back on it, what a disappointment.
That's probably the only disappointment in his career, because many people overlook the Miz. The Miz is one of the top 5 the past decade, and I will die on that. So you can come at me all
Top
you
5
want.
of the past decade?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because since
Top
you've had the
5
likes of Stone Cold and
Not
when
just
you have
characters.
people like the Stone Cold, etc., retire, it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, there's been some good people. The only people, I mean, I'd easily put Cena in front of them. I'd put Randy Orton in front of them.
Well, we're talking this decade.
Are you talking
not.
about 2020?
I'm literally talking from the decade just past into now.
Oh, no way. Mm-mm. No chance.
So you're talking from 2020 into now? That's
no,
not.
I'm going from literally
So from 2010 to now?
Yeah, from 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Characters, definitely.
Work-wise,
work-wise
as well.
Solid, but he never got you out your seat, really.
I blame the whole direction for that. It was still quality.
Oh, he's quality, but you know, his career is not something that you can look back at his career and go, yeah, he was one of the top 5 in the 2010s. If you look at him as a character and his ability to...
There wasn't much around to actually say they were better than him. I think the only ones you could honestly say in the top 10 at the time, like top 5, sorry, you could say that outrank him, is just Cena and Orton. Maybe the Fiend.
Cena, Orton, Triple H is still going. Batista is still around. Rey Mysterio, I'd say, above him.
Nah. Triple H wasn't a full-time competitor in the 2010s. He was part-time. He was literally part-time like for the entire decade. Batista was only around for 2 years max.
That's right. He's left.
The only ones you can honestly say, in terms of like full-time comparisons, you can actually say were better than Miz was Rollins. Have to say as well. I don't like him. Reigns,
Jericho.
Cena and Orton.
What about the whole?
Jericho was full-time for pretty much all the 2010s.
Some of it. Still quality, but there isn't much. But I think in terms of like overall work on the mic, consistency, week after week, I would still say in the past, like from 2010 onwards, the Miz is in the top 5. Not all time, just from 2010 onwards, in terms of work on the mic, everything. From 2010 to now, the Miz has to be in a shout for the top 5.
I'd say top 10, but not top 5.
I'd say that before he got eaten by zombies.
Yeah, that is a detriment.
Yeah, and I know he can't help it, but you know, any self-respecting guy would have just walked out of that spot. I'm not getting eaten by zombies on camera.
The only question is why didn't he do it? But then again, that could be for pointless segments that we can have a later show. Eilidh, we can definitely get you on for that one. But just for the match itself, it wasn't a particularly interesting match to watch. There weren't many spots. Probably the only interesting spot was, like you said, the vignette after the match, and maybe just the attack on the Miz, a heelish attack from two baby faces on a heel. It wasn't particularly good to watch. Frankly, I had the whole match muted. I'm not even joking.
We're talking, Andrew. We're talking about top 5 of the 2010s, not of all time. All time, Miz isn't even in the top 30 all time.
No, we're not even going to get into that. Too long. Yeah, it was a sci-fi crossover. Yeah, I can't remember the exact show though. Mind you, when you're on Dancing with the Stars, you don't really want to remember anything. But just your overall thoughts, like on that match quality itself. Was there anything in there that maybe suggested it could have got to the main show, or do you think it was just there was literally nothing in it and it was the right decision to put it on the pre-show? And that was either of you to answer that one if you want.
I think so. Rey Mysterio and the Miz. I mean, you're making the point yourself about longevity. You know, they've been going for ages, and they had previous matches. I mean, one of the most important matches of Rey Mysterio's career was against the Miz. We know these two can work together, and it gives you a safe opener. The crowd are still sort of arriving, still getting settled, things like that. I think it was the perfect pre-show match because you're not going, okay, we're going to throw something on and it's untested.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to put two guys on who we've maybe never seen. I mean, if it was like Damian Priest in that match against somebody,
there would have been a riot.
A wild card there. Well, yeah, there would have been a riot as well. But if you've got someone on the Damian Priest sort of level where it's like he's still new to the mainstream, and as a result, I mean, there's been a couple of times I've watched someone like Damian Priest, even someone like Drew McIntyre. They have a bit of awkward chemistry sometimes with people.
Yeah.
So putting Rey Mysterio and The Miz on, just with their experience, there's not that much of that awkward chemistry. The match flow was fine. It got to the point that it was making. The point paid off on Raw.
Yeah.
Is that match particularly exciting? I think for kids it is. I don't know how a general wrestling audience feels about it.
Not for me in general.
I think this match, overall, this was, like it was said, was the perfect way to start it off. You have two guys who not only know this business like the back of their hands because of the longevity, but like was said, know each other like the back of their hands. This is not something that's let's throw these two, this is their first match, or oh, this has been a big build-up, let's do this. It's two guys, very seasoned, very experienced, are really going to know how to not only play the crowd, but, you know, flow with each other. You don't really see a lot of them needing to shout out spots to each other, which, you know, you sometimes see problems with, especially when it's people that are wrestling against each other for the first time.
Yeah.
And then with it being the very first one, you're going to have a lot of the guys who have been a lot of the people watching WWE for a long time being like, well, I want to watch it because it's Miz and Mysterio. They've been around for forever. And it's a nice way of getting to, it's a match that, and I saw the grading for it by Bleacher Report, which they give it a C+. I think that's pretty on the money. It's a decent average match to get it started. It's not going to go wrong. There's not going to be any bad spots. And it's a nice way to ease everybody and the crowd into the remaining pay-per-view. So It's not an amazing match, but it did the exact job that it needs to do as that first, that first match on the pre-show.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just going to go down it each one by one. We already know Miz and Mysterio. That's the one we're talking about, Andrew. We already know the quality of the matches, so we're just going to go through it one by one and just briefly wrap it up. Some of the match quality timing, you're going to be shocked when I tell you just how long each match was at the pay-per-view. That one itself was 8 minutes 20, so that's fine. The next match, obviously, down the list is 5 minutes 59 seconds, so you can probably guess which one I'm talking about. Obviously, it's the squashing of Goldberg. So, Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. Start with yourself, Conor. A submission victory for the champion. Your thoughts on that?
I love it. And here's why. I think just like the first match, it did exactly what it's intended to do. Goldberg is a legend of this, the sport. He is one of the best really to ever do it and has one of the best finishers I've ever seen. The jackhammer will go down as one of the best finishers, in my opinion, for just how it looks like it hurts. Some finishers, the Samoan spike, stuff like that, it doesn't really look like it hurts that much. But that one just looks painful every time you see it happen. But it did exactly what it's supposed to do. Reigns gets a victory. It doesn't take a lot of time and just shows a little bit more of the dominance of Reigns while showing that he can finish this in a different way. He doesn't need to get, the spear out or the Superman punch to really finish this off. It's, I think, giving him a bit bigger of a profile and a bit more well-rounded approach and look going forward, saying he's beat Goldberg by submission. He can do submissions. Because you see some fighters and they're really one-sided, and then they slowly get more well-rounded. We saw it with Daniel Bryan, submission, and then he started to get good finishers, and he started actually finishing them with a 1, 2, 3. We're starting to see that now with Reigns, I think, where they've showing him as a big power guy, but now they're starting to round him out and say, here's a nice submission victory in a pay-per-view, and it's nice and quick, shows that Reigns is dominant, and moves it on to the next match. It's a very solid match for me.
Absolutely. For the sake of Reigns' performance, I just want to touch up on Andrew's question directly towards yourself as well. Conor, this is for yourself. Andrew's asking, don't you think it's all smoke and mirrors with Goldberg?
I can see why you would think. I think there is I think probably 60% of Goldberg being here is because he has that draw of being Goldberg. I do think it's a little bit smoke and mirrors. I think the entrances they had were fantastic. I think, Goldberg's entrance is top 5 in my opinion all time for entrances. I know I'm big up in Goldberg, but I'm a big Goldberg fan, so I think he's top 5 entrances. The long walk from backstage, they're followed the whole time. The sparks going up and him walking into the sparks. There's videos of him literally like blowing out steam and smoke out of his mouth from all of it going on around him. And I think it's them just kind of throwing a power guy in front of Reigns to show, hey, power versus power. But when you're throwing a 55-year-old in front of a guy like Reigns, who is prime of his career, absolutely massive in his own right, and also Samoan. I just think Samoans are a different breed. They're not from this planet. Samoans in general just are a different human in general. It was never going to be a real competition, and that's why it ended up being a 5-minute something match.
Yeah, literally just under 6 minutes, a second under. It's substantial for the match itself, which is good. And obviously, Andrew's put it right in terms of what Goldberg does. He does well. That's true. Goldberg can literally take a squash match or a quick 5-second, like a 5-minute match, 2-minute match, and he actually makes 2 minutes look like 20 in terms of match quality. It's not always the best, but it's entertaining. It does get your attention. And in terms of psychology, no, I don't think he does. And the reason I don't think he has the psychology is purely from his own admission. Goldberg it was for the Monday Night Wars documentary, and in that he does an interview about why he got put up from the power plant too quickly. He got put up too quickly, and next thing you know, he's gone. And it's purely for the sense of trying to stop Stone Cold Steve Austin's rise as the top dog in the industry across both WCW and WWE at the time. Well, the then WWF. It was purely in that sense, promote them quickly because they've got a similar look. In terms of like facial expression, attire, it was all the same. Very intense athletes go at each other. The only difference is one of them could work, the other, to a degree, couldn't. It didn't really work out, but what it did produce though was a 183 winning streak, a very controversial main event at Starrcade involving Scott Hall, obviously electrocuting him, which really killed WCW in my opinion. Starrcade 98 for me was the end of WCW. Like that
it was already on its way out, but I think that was kind of the
was it for me.
Blow.
That was it. Like I know people credit Mick Foley winning the world title on Raw, and that's a great thing. But for me, what happened a week before literally ended it. Like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, because they were booking WCW at the time, they've effectively ruined it. And that was the end of it. As soon as they'd done that, that was it. Like, all WWE needed was just one more. They just needed one more little flyer of the match, basically. One more thing, just to ignite the flames. And obviously 500,000 viewers switched to Raw on January 4th. And that was it. Done. But I actually thought, and I say this as well, and this is one thing I did like about this match, is in terms of circumstance, Goldberg very rarely loses by submission. I thought it was very interesting for the sense of even when he does lose, I can't physically remember the last time he lost by submission. I don't think he ever has tapped out. This one was a technical submission. On the grounds of it, that's very different. That's unlike Goldberg. You don't see him go like in that manner. It's always a pinfall. So I think it's circumstance, like Conor said about changing with the style. He used Daniel Bryan as an example. It's the exact same. You would expect a pinfall from Roman Reigns. Spear versus spear. in this case, it was a guillotine, and I think that was actually very good storytelling, very good booking. Eilidh, what about you? What was your thoughts on the finish? Did you think it was the right decision?
So definitely the right decision, because I've known for months what way they were going to go.
Yep.
With the main event of WrestleMania, I've known for months. It was just written there, pretty much. You're like, oh, I wonder what they're going to do here. But Roman Reigns needed a clean victory. He absolutely needed one. He needed one where, it wasn't like, oh, the Usos are going to interfere behind his back, or like, oh, he's going to get like a non-finish, or, oh, God is going to intervene and stop the demon, We have to get Roman to win a match so that Roman looks strong. And Goldberg went out to Saudi Arabia and did the job for him. The only negative I can see, possibly, is people that did see that as a dream match, it probably came off quite flat.
Yeah.
This had to be something that Goldberg agreed to. I swear, this has to be something that they went to Goldberg and said, are you okay being submitted? And they went, yeah, fine. Because there's no way, if he didn't want to get submitted, they would not have done it. For how much he's done for the company and how big of a person he is, even though he's not the guy he's not winning titles anymore. He's Goldberg, but he's not Goldberg as we knew him. There's no way they do this without him giving the go-ahead or even being the one to suggest it. I think this is purely him putting over Reigns and them going, we want to put Reigns over even more, and we want to start rounding him out and making it look like he can submit people. And, being the chief, the guillotine kind of fits with the whole chief kind of thing in my eyes a little bit. It's guillotine's a punishment, and if someone goes against you when you're the head of, a country, I think it kind of goes into that. But there's no way without him saying, yeah, go for it, that they go forward with it. And it would have just been, 2 spears each, and then, maybe a Superman punch, and then that's it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. And I've already answered Andrew using the accounts, using the Weekly Armchairs YouTube channel. I've responded in the comments, but it's just an overall question. I think we may all unanimously agree on this one. Worst finish to your reputation, pin or submission, for me is purely submission. It is, but in terms of booking, it is broken down. You're expected to tap on that one. So, in the sense of it, for me, submission is worse.
It's such a broad thing to ask, though. What's a worse finish? Being guillotined out by Roman Reigns or Triple H on Booker T from years ago? It was pinfall. So was Booker T thrilled with that job? Probably not.
All right, let's reword the question a different way then. What's worse for a finish for a babyface then, and then what's worse for a heel?
Oh, you don't want a heel to tap out. The heel tapping out.
Let's do it that way.
The heel tapping out, because that's the heel.
We'll see that WrestleMania.
It's humiliation for the heel. When the babyface is tapped out, oh, there he is. When the babyface taps out, it's meant to either, like the crowd are meant to feel sympathetic, or it absolutely kills the babyface. But it totally depends on who that babyface is.
Yeah.
Whether it gets sympathy or whether it gets nothing. If CM Punk in AEW tapped out now, the fans would go absolutely mental. If Jungle Boy was to tap out, people would feel sorry for him. That's the difference.
Here's the thing, I'll say this, and I kind of feel like an arse being that guy, but as I say with a lot of other things, it's all situational. I think it's another thing where you can match-to-match basis. I also think it's whether you lose by submission, whether you tap out or whether you pass out. I think you kind of look better reputation-wise if you pass out from a guillotine, because it shows you didn't give up. Your body gave out before you could physically give up. You were not okay with losing. You were not okay with tapping out and showing weakness. So you would rather let yourself pass out. I think so. So I think in that sense, I think I'd rather lose. I'd rather pass out by
Then tap out.
submission, then tap out hands down. And I think that goes for a heel or a face.
But
It's the same way in the UFC. You don't want to look at any sport as a quitter. It's seen in the UFC all the time. You'll see people who would rather pass out in the UFC because they don't want to lose by tapping out. They don't want to look weak. They want to look, I'm still big and
Definitely.
bad. My body gave out, not me.
No, you're spot on. You're spot on. I would rather the same circumstance. And obviously, at least he's not in the chat to wind you up about the Arsenal score, Eilidh. But Greg, obviously, Eilidh's brother, one of the hosts on the channel, decent guy. Yeah, he is a decent guy now. He's actually a good guy. He does have a question, and obviously, it is reference to a point that Conor made before, and obviously Eilidh's reiterated as well, is how can they get Reigns over more? He's go away heat now. Eilidh, the honour is yours.
Yes, brilliant. Okay, yeah, Roman Reigns has been go away heat. I had this rant on funnily enough, the Attitude Era podcast that we did,
which was brilliant.
Yeah, I had this rant. So I mean, I've covered this ground before, but Roman Reigns has been champion for too long without being interesting. And he's not only been champ for too long without being interesting, but he's had lackeys. When he fought Brock Lesnar the first time, the focus wasn't on him or Brock Lesnar. It was on Paul Heyman. When Roman Reigns fought John Cena, the focus was on John Cena. When Roman Reigns fought Finn Balor, the focus was on Finn Balor because everyone knew what Roman Reigns was going to do.
Yeah.
Same 4 or 5 moves, Uso interference, Heyman distracts the ref, and then either the guillotine, the Superman punch, or the spear. And with the guillotine, and where I think Goldberg loses out with passing out, is that we'd just seen that finish. And not only have we just seen that finish, but he's been doing it a lot, Roman Reigns. It's not like, oh, he only pulls out the guillotine in dire straits. He pulls it out all the time now. It's what he does now. It's his new norm. And we saw it against Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins didn't tap.
Exactly.
Seth Rollins beat Roman Reigns at Royal Rumble via DQ, sure. So Seth Rollins looks absolutely brilliant, and Roman Reigns looks terrible. And I don't think him putting the same hold on Goldberg and beating him in 6 minutes does the job of suddenly making it so, oh, Roman Reigns is a killer. Like, no, Roman Reigns essentially made a pensioner pass out. You know, like, as far as your in-ring age, Goldberg's a pensioner. If we're talking like, are you an in-ring pensioner? Anyone over 50 gets to the point where it's like, why are you still in the ring?
Okay, there we go. I was waiting for the age. I was waiting for you to see the actual age. So I'm like, if we're calling pensioner, could we technically call Randy Orton getting up there because he's in his near mid-40s now?
Yeah, so 50. So like the sort of the Chris Jericho, the Shane McMahon, the Goldberg. If Taker was to have a match, AEW's Sting, you know. Do I want to see these people have these matches? No. Does it do anything when they lose for the guy that beats them? I mean, not really now, you know.
Who's recently been elevated?
Goldberg,
no one's been elevated by this match.
You know, ex Braun Strowman, now Titan. And the fact that he's ex Braun Strowman shows how much it did for Braun Strowman.
I think I have to agree. I think what this did was I think they're trying to legitimize that as, like you said, it didn't do anything for Rollins. So they're trying to show, no, this guillotine, trust me, look at me. It can take somebody out. I think that's all this was. It was a look at this. It took someone out.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter that it doesn't matter it's a pensioner. And WWE creative eyes, which I think WWE creative this last 10 years has been one of the stupidest, probably my least favorite creative in the entire world when it comes to, you know, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact, now AEW, Ring of Honor. I think WWE's got one of the worst creatives in the world right now. But I think there is. It's hard when they're doing stuff like putting the belt back on Brock Lesnar when he's a part-time piece of shit.
Oh, I know, and we will get to that.
We'll get to that. But I'm just saying, like,
fan here.
No, But I'm just saying, like, with creative, I think in their stupid mind, they go, even though it's a pensioner, it's on Goldberg, and it's on someone who's seen as a big, powerful, strong. So they think that's going to make it look more legitimate. I think it makes it look worse because now you've just only really put out a 55-year-old out with it. Who, I mean, that's dangerous for his health anyway. When you're getting up there in that age.
I know a lot of people's views on Roman, so I get Andrew's comment about being a casual viewer. I lost interest in Roman Reigns like 2016. I'm on the line of I prefer Seth Rollins since Rollins since 2012. Even though I lost interest in Reigns in 2016, Rollins from 2012 onwards is far more relevant, far better in the ring, far better on the mic, continues to evolve better. Reigns is finally getting his push. A little bit too late. But in all respect, though, he is not... I honestly have no particular interest in Reigns. Like, Reigns could go and be the absolute best ever of the past decade, right? He could go and do that. But I would rather watch Seth Rollins in a 5-minute match with a cruiserweight than Roman Reigns with anybody because I don't feel that much engaged by him anymore. I genuinely don't. I'm sick of his title reign. I want him to lose at WrestleMania. I want something.
There's no reason
Rollins involved. I want Rollins involved. I don't care. I want Rollins to force his way in somehow. Do a Daniel Bryan, and actually take both titles and make both titles relevant because Lesnar and Reigns don't deserve it.
Can I just say how much I love Daniel Bryan's entrance music when he first broke on the scene when he was on when he was Miz's. Bro, I'm sorry, but that theme when he was first announced as being like the final member of Team Cena against the next, one of my favorite themes. It's not definitely up there as one of the best, but it's one of my favorites. Oh my gosh, bring back
the Hurricane.
Hello,
the Hurricane. Bro, the Hurricane's just as funny on Twitter as he is actually fighting. It's absolutely amazing that he's able to keep the same kind of energy off outside.
I like these annoying. I like these annoying.
I think the problem with Roman is he's too, like you said, he's too one-dimensional. 4 or 5 moves, always finishing the same way. It's always going to happen the same way. Ooh, punch the ground, let me spear, game over. You know, with Rollins, he's continued. With Rollins, there's depth, there's development, there's adaptability in his game. He's adapted to now. Rollins has got like what 6 different moves that he can do. That can, he's got the pedigree that he's taken on as his own. He's got the curb stomp that he's taken on his own. He's got some older moves from back when he first broke in with the Shield that he still uses that can be used as finishers. Roman Reigns is a Superman punch or a spear. Both moves are not original.
Or
overused and can be extremely boring. And he's not even the best at it. Edge, I think, is has a better spear. Goldberg has a better spear. Batista, I think, has a better spear. Rhino's got the best spear of all time. So
the Gore is the best spear of all time.
Oh, hands down. But it's a bunch of moves that are overused, already used, and have been used for a very long time. Rollins has adapted not only his character, but his play, his wrestling style, and his move set that he has. Reigns has been the same ever since he broke in.
There are some very good spears, but the best one's Edge. End of discussion. There you go.
Oh, not sure about that one.
No, I think Edge is top 2, and he might be 1. I agree.
He's hit the spear in big moments, but if you actually look at how he hits the spear or how he used to hit it, and sure, okay, he's dealing with like all sorts of problems. So I understand if he's hitting it. Sometimes he was genuinely just hugging to the floor. Like it was just like a jump in, like, hey, come here. I think the best.
I do like the Gore. I do like the originality of Rhino because it's not even like hanging him down. He's literally just like fuck you. Like he's like
just right through them.
I will say, I think Edge has got one of the best spears to ever happen, which is when one of the Hardy Boys jumped off of the ladder and he speared the shit out of him in a ladder match. I think that's one of the best spears to ever happen.
He's got good spear.
And I think that's got something to do with it. Whenever you rate someone in their ability to do a spear, I think you also have to take into account when they use it, the moments they create with those. When you talk about spears, you think of Edge doing that. When you're able to say spear, and the first person you think of is really Edge when you think of a spear. I think that kind of has to
TLC
play into that.
Yep, TLC too. Can we all agree that the worst spear attempt is 100% Vicky Guerrero?
Vicky Guerrero is the worst person to ever live on this planet. She reminds me of Dolores Umbridge. No, Vicky Guerrero is Dolores Umbridge of the WWE. I can't stand her. I saw the clip of her debuting on AEW and I shut the TV off. And I'm like, well, there goes that. I'm watching highlights from now on.
Wow.
I thought we went a bit far, Reece.
No, I fucking hate her, man. I can't stand her.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, she's not.
Wow.
Great.
Toss her off the top of the freaking stage, like Shane McMahon had happen to him. It's the best thing she's useful for.
Point. It was easy to hate her.
Oh
I thought she was funny. She was a very good heel authority figure. Although she was punching above her weight. In 2007, 2008, she was punching above her weight.
She's always punching above her weight class.
Oh, no, not that. No, not that. No, not that type of punch. No, we're not.
No,
that's harsh.
No.
I mean, be
a star. Be a star.
Oh, Evan. Oh, Evan, that is rough. Vicky Guerrero equals Carol Baskin equals Kate Hopkins.
Yeah, I think that's very harsh on someone who is just playing a character.
Oh no,
yes.
That's the thing. That's why I think she's wrestling. She's wrestling's Dolores Umbridge because it takes a very good actor or actress in this case to really make people hate you that much, as Dolores Umbridge is hated in Harry Potter, and as Vicky Guerrero is hated vastly across wrestling. Now that she's a great person off camera. I've seen some clips of her off camera just as a regular person. She's an amazing person off camera.
She's got a brilliant creative mind, by the way. This overlooked.
She's a terrible Vicky Guerrero. Vicky Guerrero, the character, is one of my least favorite people of all time.
Well, at least you've got your opinion that obviously
She's
is
up there
valid.
with Test. She's up there with Test. I can't stand Test. I think he was an absolute anchor.
This is veering wildly off course.
We are so coming back to this like probably after WrestleMania. We are definitely going to have a show on this.
Characters of all time.
Absolutely, and I am so gonna have Conor on for that one. The next one.
Oh, I've got opinions. You know this.
Oh, don't worry. I'll be letting you have it. The next one, obviously, straight down, is the first of the two chamber matches. 15 minutes, 41 seconds long was the ladies. So I'm going to hand this one over to you, Eilidh. Like, your thoughts on that, Bianca Belair? I wanted it between Belair and Bliss to win this one. Kind of glad that Belair won it in that sense, because I do think it's the start of the right decision overall, and I'll get to my point later on. But just your overall thoughts on that. What was your thoughts on the match, the booking, and was the right decision for you in Belair winning the chamber, or do you think they should have gone with the fans' favourite? Liv Morgan, your thoughts on that?
Controversially, I think this match was pretty much perfect.
Yes.
I think you had 6 women in there who were all at least semi-believable. And the only one I would maybe make an exception for on that is Nikki ASH, because ever since Charlotte cut her legs out from under her.
No,
absolutely not. It's been nothing but sort of, she's teaming with Rhea, and then Rhea turns on her, and all of a sudden we have to hate Rhea Ripley. I don't think that really worked. I mean, you heard the reaction Rhea Ripley got. It wasn't exactly you monster, because people find her cool naturally and just sort of back her anyway. She really has to ham up being a heel before people boo her. And even then, it doesn't really work because people don't really care about Nikki ASH. But yeah, I thought this match was really good. I mean, you've got, it's Piper Niven, because I'm not calling her the other name. In that match, she was very good as this sort of, if you think Nia Jax butt can work, she played that role brilliantly. It was the big monster in the match, but could actually do the spots, could actually get in the right place, wasn't really at risk of hurting people properly. yeah, some things looked a little green, but I mean, it's modern day WWE. Not everything's going to hit 100%. My standout performer of the match, however, is Liv Morgan, because she played the role that The Miz plays in Royal Rumbles, which was new person comes in, she got flattened by something, and she lay out for a bit. But she would always get a nice little set piece to go with it as well.
Reminds me of Kofi Kingston.
You saw
Oh,
some
Royal
really
Rumble.
nice work. Yeah, like Kofi Kingston, yeah. Though, kinda, I mean, Kofi Kingston's been given a lot of those spots, but at the same time, I'm thinking more about like the longevity, about being around in the match to be taken out, but not eliminated.
Yeah.
And Liv Morgan showed superb stamina. She showed superb awareness. She was in the right place pretty much all the time. I mean, you weren't watching that match and going, "Oh, Liv Morgan really made a blunder there." And I think Liv Morgan really got rewarded with that impressive elimination of Piper Niven. You know, it was really quite impressive. She hit the power bomb. I was like, okay, this is going to be a 2 count. No, she got it. And you're like, brilliant.
Exactly.
There you go. And that keeps Liv Morgan strong enough not to forget about her, but not too strong. It does it like I think anyone who wanted Liv Morgan to win the match, myself included, I thought Liv Morgan would have been great because the whole character arc for Liv Morgan over at least a year has been you're not good enough. You're not good enough at all. And she really cleverly developed her character around that in very subtle ways. And, you know, her friends are cut away from her, like properly. She's still there. So she goes through this sort of work shoot character where she's like, everyone's deserted me, but they actually did in a way. And not like through their fault, but WWE obviously cut the contracts. But Liv Morgan used that to fuel her character, get herself into.
That's why we're here.
Get into the game while it's still alive. Yeah,
Absolutely.
she really cleverly developed her character around, okay, I've been left alone here. What can I do? She was constantly downtrodden, constantly told you're not actually good enough. And then she had a pretty good match with Becky Lynch where you were like, okay, you could actually fight for a title. I'm not saying you deserve to win it. She still needs that spark, that the man moment that Becky Lynch had, where it takes her over this sort of good in-ring worker to must have on a show. But yeah, I thought Liv Morgan was great. I thought Rhea Ripley was superb. Maybe it could have done with a bit more back and forth just to make Nikki ASH look a bit competitive. It didn't really look like there was much of a fight going on there for Rhea Ripley to eliminate her. That final 3 was great. Alexa Bliss, seeing her back and hopefully not without a doll. So hopefully without a doll even. So hopefully no doll. Hopefully she's back. Hopefully we get, you know, the goddess again. That's what we want. We want that Alexa Bliss. We want the one that was sort of feuding with Sasha Banks, had the feud with Nia Jax, then had another feud with Nia Jax, but the dynamics changed. That was a little odd. In one of them, she was mocking her weight, and then the next time, Nia was mocking her height. So, yeah. But Alexa Bliss, really impressive. I hope to see more matches like that out of her and fewer matches involving dolls and lighting and themed leftover stuff. And I do think the right person won because Bianca Belair did have the title stolen from her at SummerSlam in a good moment. I don't actually mind the moment. I think it was great when Becky Lynch came down and just did that because I was expecting a 10-15 minute match. I didn't get it. And I thought that was really good because leave the match for when people are expecting it. Leave the match for when the build and when the people are expecting it. So overall, I think this match was booked absolutely perfectly. I think one of 3 or 4 right people won. And I am looking forward to seeing Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch have an actual match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, definitely. And before we move on to the next one, I'm going to give Conor the opportunity to answer this question.
I was going to say, do I get to speak on the match at all, or are you just moving on?
You're getting the next match all to yourself.
It's fine with me. I think she does return the favor, and I'll just say this: I'm not a fan of Bianca Belair. I don't like her whatsoever. So seeing her win the title, I was not a fan of, but it was a great match.
And Connor's now muted. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But that is the sense. So Connor, you're getting the next women's match.
Oh, fun!
Yeah. Rousey and Naomi versus Flair and Deville with one arm tied behind their back, but obviously the whole point of
What a match to give me.
Deville is injured, but is not actually injured. She's just faking it. So, yeah, your thoughts on that one, Connor? A 9-minute match.
It's my least favorite match on the entire card. I would have much
Exactly.
rather. I would have much rather
That's
just
why I was
not have
giving
it
you.
happen. I would have just much rather just not had it happen at all than have this go on. I mean,
Yeah, Trevor,
just,
that's a good point. That's a good point, Trevor. He does look
all right,
very good.
You know what? It's my lunch. I'm eating. I have some clam chowder and a French dip sandwich right now, and a Diet Coke that I enjoy. So
You'll
that's
get used to that's Trevor's banter, though. Trevor banters everybody.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm having my French dip and my clam chowder bread bowl right now. I'm having my lunch. It's delicious.
Once you're done, your face come on screen because also I will need your face on screen for the quiz. So
Yeah, no worries.
Keane, you'll be here soon as well. Well, I expect you to.
Yeah, but no. God, I hate this match. I don't like Rousey. I think it's her and WWE. Just I think is one of the worst decisions ever. I just you want to talk about somebody who's got no technical ability at all to make any wrestling match look good. You just look at Ronda freaking Rousey.
I'm gonna let this debate kick on between you two in a minute because I'm going to love this because I got a feeling that Eilidh is not happy.
I'm stunned, really. It
was disgraceful. It was disgraceful that she debuted taking the great Roddy Piper's whole shtick. That was a disgrace. That was a disgrace to WWE. That was a disgrace.
Easy fella. Down. First of all, Maisie, I'm glad that you're enjoying the stream, and I'm hoping I'm glad that this has convinced you. But normally, I would fight on the corner of Rousey because I do like some of it. Some of it I don't. In all fairness, but it's not that she's stealing the. She isn't stealing the stick at all. Like she's always admitted, like her favorite is Roddy Piper, and she's based her gimmick on it, which is totally great. But
which is fine.
Her debut is immense.
There's no one else who should be doing any of that Roddy Piper stuff, but the late Roddy Piper. I think that's one kind of personality, character, and all that stuff. You leave that with him. I think that's iconic. It's something you don't do again, or even kind of link towards. She hasn't progressed. She's not good at making anything look realistic at this point. I think the decision to have, like you said, Deville be hurt, but not really hurt, and then still have her lose, and the fact that you're having Rousey and Naomi beating Deville and Flair is a disgrace to the sport of wrestling.
Oh,
it's
here with that
absolute
disgrace. Eilidh.
This passed being sport long ago, but
Eilidh, the floor is yours.
I will say this. Charlotte Flair, and I absolutely loathe her. She has got the Roman Reigns thing for me. I can't care. I don't care. I don't want to see her with titles. I don't want to see her in WWE. She purposely undermines everyone. And most importantly, she upset Toni Storm. And she caused Toni Storm to quit. And I absolutely love Toni Storm, and I'm probably in a massive minority with that. But I hate Charlotte
on the same floor as you.
Before she did that.
I just think Rousey's terrible, and I don't want to see
Toni Storm went home. But I thought Charlotte did something really clever in this match, and it was at the finish.
Yeah.
Deville's in the armbar. Charlotte Flair looks like she's going to break it up, but then just stands there. Doesn't care. Because why would Charlotte care? Her whole character and her whole person, from what we've heard from backstage, is all about Charlotte Flair. What will boost Charlotte Flair? Does stopping Sonya Deville tapping out or having her arm broken against Ronda Rousey help Charlotte Flair? Not really. She's got the belt. She doesn't want to risk getting hurt against Ronda. Not now. She's not going to give Ronda the satisfaction. And she's not going to break up this armbar just to prolong a match that she clearly didn't really care about. You know, the way she was just stood on the apron. It could also be that, but who would then be spearheading the toxic booking? You know, look at women's roster members who have got the absolute, you know, they've got the control. If Charlotte Flair didn't have the control, she wouldn't be the champion every single year and all the time and across 3 brands and burying everyone wherever.
Well, Charlotte's just the perfect example of a spoiled little, you know, B word that doesn't deserve to really be wrestled.
Say it on here.
Oh, okay. She's a spoiled little bitch.
Yes.
She's a spoiled little bitch. And she's the person who, because Ric Flair is Ric Flair, and by the way, Ric Flair is one of my top 5 of all time. Put that out there now. Ric Flair's top 5 for me. Disgrace to the name of Flair. And is kind of hurting her old man's reputation by being just an absolute piece of shit inside and outside the ring.
His own reputation a little bit.
Oh, he did. I'm not saying he
Just
didn't.
a little
But
bit.
Charlotte's not helping his reputation at all by being a little bitch inside the ring and out of it backstage. I think she's one of the worst.
I think Rick might be controlling that. Look at the tweets that Rick's put out against WWE. Ric Flair keeps going back at Becky Lynch. Funnily enough, Charlotte Flair has problems with Becky Lynch.
Just wait till Bayley beats her after WrestleMania.
Yeah, Ric Flair has had all these sorts of problems, and then everything came up with Ric Flair and that incident. It's just a bad time to be a Flair. And yeah, there you go. There you go, Andrew.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that I don't completely agree. I'm not saying I don't completely agree.
He is a pawn.
I absolutely agree. I'm just saying that her being a spoiled little bitch inside the ring and outside the ring has done nothing but make basically just everybody, fans and, you know, other wrestlers, just despise her.
I'm sick of her. Like, I want to see something different. I want to see talent actually keep me interested. I want to see talent that keep me interested. Like, and Toni Storm did keep me interested.
Rousey does not keep me interested. Rousey puts me to sleep.
Fair point. I think there's some parts of her that certainly wouldn't put me to sleep. If she
her mic skills are terrible. Her in-ring ability is below average. It's all around. She's just not. She's bad at those 2 things, just as bad as Charlotte Flair's entire personality is.
The best one on the roster is not even there at the minute. The best one on the entire roster is Bayley.
Yeah,
like, I don't care what people think about Becky. I don't care what people think about Becky Lynch. Like, Bayley's clear.
Bayley's definitely up there. I'd say just out of more that I've seen from the 2, and obviously Bayley can't help being hurt, I would put Sasha Banks above Bayley.
No.
I think Sasha Banks has had more matches, and sure, okay, does she have a bit more credit with the booking, or does she have a bit more word backstage, or is she just better? I think she might be, because Sasha Banks has had great matches with Asuka, with Becky, with Bayley, with Bianca, with Charlotte. You know, and
just submission holds.
But the main problem that you're saying, and you are right, because Charlotte is old in on-screen time, and you get your moment.
Yeah.
And it's only if you're really, really good that you get multiple moments, or that you can become a feature, like just this constant sort of presence. There's a reason people are still interested in what Randy Orton does. And it's because he's kept himself.
Randy Orton's one of the biggest legends in WWE history.
Exactly. And it's despite the fact he's been around for so long, and he's had the odd injuries, but he's not just like gone away for 5 years and then come back. But the problem is, you've got Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey going to WrestleMania, and as I said with the Elimination Chamber stuff, there are 5 more interesting women in there at least. And if they sorted Nikki ASH, there would be 6.
If they just stop that gimmick and put her back to the sanity gimmick, or
put her back to the one that she was on when she started. When she teamed up with some of the guys down in NXT. When she,
Sanity.
That was Sanity. That was
the worst thing that they've done with her
Young.
is
Eric Young.
Eric Young. EY is one of my favorite characters. I followed EY before he came to the WWE, and I loved his character. I loved just how and he's a brilliant performer too. He does his spots well. He's good on the mic. He's convincing in everything he does. I love EY, and I loved that she was kind of part of that insanity gimmick. Worst thing they've done, even worse than I think just changing her to Nikki Ash, is she never looks competitive. Like you said, when you're talking about the match, she doesn't ever really look like she's
I think there's a reason that they don't see her as competitive. I think for them, in the sense, right, and I say this in the nicest way possible, I think for them, purely for...
Because she's Scottish. Xenophobia.
Well, I wasn't going to go down the xenophobic route. But what I am going to say is not very many British talent is successful in terms of like winning multiple championships or being like believable as a character. It's mostly elsewhere, like American, Latino, or like the Asian brands, because they've got very good connections out in Asia. They've got a fantastic fan base in Britain. But
it's Britain and the
in terms of talent, not many are successful. Not many are successful from here. Like William Regal was particularly mid-carder. They never gave him the world title he deserved. Drew McIntyre had to wait until 2020 to win a world title.
They had to put him through the three-man band first. Oh my God, you want to talk about one of the worst stables ever.
There's 3 Scottish superstars on the main roster right now. 2 of them are women. Piper Niven, because I am not going to use the shitty name that she's got now. She's from Ayr, same as Drew McIntyre. You got Nikki as well, Glaswegian. They've got that sense. There's not many in terms of English. There's not very many English talent. In terms of Ireland,
there was some good English
in terms of Ireland. I'm pretty sure it's just Finn Balor and Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
Sheamus. Yeah, that's it. Is there anything else?
I've loved Sheamus' development over time, though. You want to talk about longevity and switching up your character over time, though.
Look at like Veer Mahan. Like his entire fan base is still waiting for him. He's still coming, although he ain't coming. By the way, like he ain't finishing.
He ain't going anywhere, but
he isn't even finishing. Like he's not going to get on the main roster at all. And obviously they got rid of top workable talent that you could fit the British talent with. They got rid of like Killian Cross, for example. Fantastic workable talent. They got rid of him. So I just look at it and I'm thinking, there's not enough in it. Becky Lynch, the best mic worker of all time? No, not for me. But quality in the ring, though. Quality ring work and good on the mic. But I wouldn't say she's the best ever. Although, isn't much in it to define. I think she's up there, but I wouldn't say she's the best.
I think she's up there because of her ability in both areas. She's above average in both areas, which I think puts her up there. I don't think she's the best in either, though.
I just think I'm sick of the overly repetitive storylines and the same finishes and the same things, such as Charlotte Flair constantly being booked to win world titles. Like, do something else for a change. Make her start jobbing.
Do something different for a change. Just kick her out of the entire freaking industry.
Do something different for a change becomes the motto for the company as we go later into the pay-per-view anyway. So, I mean, as good a segue as that would be for the main event, there are things to discuss before it. But I think generally that has to be agreed that, do
absolutely, absolutely. We are gonna move on because I want to get 2 sides. So obviously this is another match involving the third Scottish representative, obviously on the card. We've discussed Piper Niven because nobody wants to say the Double D. We've discussed Nikki ASH in her sense. Now we're coming into Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss. I'm going to go on a limb on this. I thought it was one of the best matches on the card. I'm not even joking. Because in terms of best matches, for me, it was one of the best matches because it completely caught me off guard. I thought in terms of capability, I thought Madcap Moss, because he hasn't got a lot of experience on the main roster in terms of match quality. He actually delivered very well in a false count anywhere. It actually fit him better. If this had just been like a handicap match with Corbin, it may have worked a bit more because obviously Corbin came back with more experience. But he conducted himself really well against McIntyre. The right result, I thought it was a fantastic spot. The fact that he pulled out the sword and still delivered, he still delivered the finish. with a sword in his hand. I thought it was great. It had that fear factor in Madcap Moss. He pulled that off really well, like the fear of having a sword technically stabbed through his chest. I thought it was great. I thought Corbin as the heel manager was brilliant as well. Interference as well, done it right. And obviously McIntyre, he gave Madcap Moss some moments as well where he was able to believable that Madcap Moss could beat him. There was a little bit of a believable factor in there. But overall match quality for bang on 9 minutes. 9 minutes bang on. Standout match, for one of the standout matches for me. Eilidh, your thoughts on Moss versus McIntyre?
Did its job. I don't think it's anything special. I don't think it's anything I would necessarily go back and watch again. I don't think it's anything that I would say was. I mean, it didn't touch the sides after the Elimination Chamber. After the women's Elimination Chamber match, that match was obviously, as I said, just about perfect. I think this was perfect for what it needed to be. It just didn't need to be much, and that's what it was. It wasn't much, you know. It got in, did its bit, and got out, so it was inoffensive. But I think it says a lot more about WWE's current standard that we're taking a match that was inoffensive and saying it's one of the best matches on the card. It was fine. It probably was in the upper 4 of the card if you're going top 4 and bottom 4 of like the main card.
Yeah.
But like to give it such praise for just sort of doing its job and being what's there. Drew McIntyre should be a star. Drew McIntyre should 100% be in one of the top spots. But he actually isn't.
So I have to admit, that's brilliant. Trev, I absolutely adore the banner that comes for you week after week. That is absolutely brilliant.
You know what I think hurts this match, though? In my eyes, what hurts this match and makes it definitely not my favorite, definitely not, I think, the best match, the giant...
at Moss's neck?
Yes, it's the giant botch where we nearly see Madcap Moss split his head open and get a massive concussion and spinal damage.
He nearly broke his neck.
Yeah, exactly. He lands directly on his head. He was fortunate not to be passed out with a broken neck. You know, he was almost Kurt Angle. He could have had a Kurt Angle storyline if he freaking came off worse for that. And I think that has to be factored in when you minus the gold medal, of course. But like I said, with
Kiki Lederhosen with a broken freaking neck.
But like I said earlier with Mysterio and Miz, it's those two. They know what they're doing. You don't see botches from those two. They always do everything perfectly. They always know exactly what they're doing.
That's experience.
It just shows why. Exactly, and that's why it's showing the experience of Madcap Moss and honestly, I think a little bit of Drew McIntyre, because there are still those botches there. I'm not saying it's on McIntyre at all for that botch, but I think you see sometimes botches are saved by the other wrestler that is not doing the botch. You've seen it sometimes where like we've seen I saw one where it's, suicide dives where to help make it believable, but at the same time helping save, you kind of see them jump, lean in front of them a little bit, kind of catch them, and still effectively they're taking the hit, but it makes it safer.
Yeah.
But I think the botch hurts that in my eyes. And again, I'm kind of following along to make sure I have the matches right and who won and what happened by looking at Bleacher Report. They give it a B-. And I think I'd give it a B+ before the botch. But I think the botch hurts it.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it wasn't like the absolute best match on the night. Bar that botch, though, it is still one of the best in terms of worked. It's just that botch does let it down. Like that is true.
Corbin's great again at making people hate him because I can't stand him.
He's the only Man United fan I physically hate.
Yeah.
I physically hate him for good reason. Like, I hate the character, but actually, as a human being, I actually like him because he does his role so well. Like, he does it so.
It's another guy who's good at what he does because he's able to make you not like him so much.
I just don't like the whole happy thing. I want the lone wolf gimmick back. I don't like the whole happy bollocks.
The lone wolf is great, and I will agree with Andrew here. The Orton family, if you want to talk about one of the greatest wrestling families of all time, Orton's our second.
Third.
Orton's a second. Who do you have? Who do you have? I know who you'll have in first, but who do you have above him besides that?
Well, for me, obviously, number one's the Hart family.
I wouldn't even agree with that.
For me, the whole entire Hart clan's like up. Actually, it's between that and the Hanoi family. I think maybe
The Hanoi
Hanoi is
family's
number one.
top.
I'd
Hanoi
say
is
number
number
one Hanoi. You know what? I'll amend it. Number one's Hanoi family. Hart family's number two. Then Orton's is
I
number
can
three.
give that.
You've got to
The Hanoi
remember that
family
in the
is
Hart
incredible.
family, you count Natalia. So do remember to deduct a few points for that.
To be fair, I honestly don't care about her.
Exactly. So surely
she's-
that's a problem.
No, I just disregard her. I just disregard her.
No, she's in there though.
But I disregard her. When I
Yeah,
think of the Hart
and I'll
family,
say this:
I don't think of her.
all the families that Andrew's mentioning are good families of wrestlers.
He
Just
mentioned,
nowhere near
he mentioned one for me that is absolutely quality.
the Guerreros.
No, the Briscoes.
The Briscoes were great.
I
love the Briscoes. I'm a big fan of the Von Erichs.
The Guerreros are amazing. The Funks are awesome. Like the Von Erichs, underrated. Nobody gives the Von Erichs credit. I think that's purely because obviously Kerry Von Erich became the Texas Tornado, which was an absolute disaster.
I think it's the era and what happened with their characters, like you said, that hurts their legacy. But I think it's the Anoy family first.
That was shit booking by Vince, though. But
you want to just look at the Anoy family's talent.
Never.
Oh my God, the Anoy family.
Never.
Yeah,
the Anoy family is just
some things with Vince I'm brutal to. Some things I applaud him for. I mean, the guy did give us Undertaker and Kane, but he also gave us.
I think the Anoy family's got some of the best. The Anoy family, if you want to look at just pure talent, I don't think they've produced a bad wrestler in the Anoy family. Like we can say, like disregard Natalia and the Hart family. I don't think you can name really a bad wrestler in the Anoy family, and that's incredible. And I think it's the same way with the Ortons. You have 3 generations.
I'm going to go on a limb, and I think
Reigns is in that family, though.
He is in that family. So is Yokozuna. So
whoa.
No, Yokozuna was interesting.
Don't you ever slander Yokozuna.
He's in the family. He married into the family. He's in that family. He is in the Anoy family. It's on record that he's in that family.
I just don't.
How can you slander Yoko?
Yoko?
How is that a slander?
You literally just went straight away like, oh, Yokozuna.
I'm saying as like good people that have been. And no, I'm saying great people that have been part of the Anoy family. I'm saying that when you look at the Anoy family, almost every member has been an incredibly good wrestler, and that's what I'm saying. You look at some of the people they've had, like you.
You were on thin ice. You were on thin ice.
I don't know how that puts me on thin ice. I think you're on something.
Whereas I was saying Roman Reigns because he would be the exception.
Well, because if you look at, you have like Afa and Zika, you have Rikishi, Umaga, Yokozuna's in the family. Rosie, I think, is someone who's very much
shit.
I think he's not as bad as people think he is. I think the only person, if you want to look at somebody that actually, now that I think about it, someone who's been bad, that's been produced. Someone who's been produced from that family that's not great is Nia Jax. I'm not a fan of Nia Jax, and she is from that family. And that's another one. She's forgettable.
I'm going to go on a limb, and I don't usually slander a name, but I'm going to. The Rock is my absolute hero, but in terms of the Anoy family, his daughter's going to be the worst of them all. Because there is so... Just hear me out. Just hear me out. Just hear me out. She's going to be the worst of them all, purely sense of so much pressure on the name. And obviously she's got into the business purely... She says she's not got into business because of her dad. She clearly is. She's in the door because of her dad. She's got the pressure of the family name as well, and the whole generations above her and what's coming next. And also, she ain't going to make it on the main roster when she gets there.
She can't be worse. She can't be worse than Nia Jax.
She isn't bad, but overall, in terms of what's to come for reputation, she's going to be the worst. Even Siva or whatever he's called.
She can't be worse than Nia Jax, though. There's no way that she's worse than Nia Jax. If we're talking about people that I want in the women's game who's gone, Awesome Kong, I'd much rather have than Nia Jax right now in the women's division. Or I think it was Karma.
You really need to look at it and think carefully.
I'm just saying because of how bad Nia Jax's I've heard have one of the worst reputations in that locker room, and then just
still losing on aggregate, mate. Still losing on aggregate, so I don't care. Could be worse. You could go to Norway and get absolutely throttled. But hey ho. I liked Awesome Kong, and obviously Trevor comes in with the Bushwhackers, and Jim Duggan, they could have called him Uncle. Hacksaw Jim Duggan was absolute quality. I mean, first ever Royal Rumble winner. The man's an absolute wrecking machine.
Oh, I love Hacksaw. I love also, that's one of my favorite Dean Ambrose moments is when he does the Hacksaw Jim Duggan calling card when he sees a picture of Stephanie McMahon in his therapy. Oh.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, like, we went a little bit off topic, but that's literally what this podcast is about. It's absolutely fucking brilliant.
But now.
I think we can pretty much say the next match didn't. It's a bit unfortunate it didn't happen because it would have been a good match. It was a tag match, the Usos versus the Viking Raiders. It didn't happen, but it was very good scripting to just move on to the main event. Purely for the sense of you're going to get that tag match at WrestleMania. They've literally delayed it to build the feud better. So we are going to skip the match that didn't happen to watch these two rant. I think Conor will probably want to come on camera for this one. I got a feeling he will.
Are we skipping Eilidh and Becky Lynch?
Yeah, I thought you missed the match.
But there's a reason for that though. I want
Don't
to get
tell me you didn't like it.
No.
And I'll say it right now. If we're just going to speak on it for 2 seconds, it did its job.
Chill. Just chill. I am not leaving those two out because I want to get your rant in first and then close with those two before we do the quiz.
You want us to be happier at the end. That's not you just making up for like forgetting a match and then making up.
Yeah, I thought you forgot the match for a second.
Why would I do that? I'm not evil. I am doing this the right way. I am getting your rant in.
They'll leak your format online, and people will know that you forgot about Becky Lynch later. But
I did not forget.
Rant now, then I am ready.
I did not forget. I did this on purpose.
Ready to ramble.
Oh, I'm so ready.
I did this on purpose. I want to get your ranting on Lesnar in the Elimination Chamber match before we wrap this whole discussion by talking about a legend versus the current best in the division. See, I'm playing it smart. So you cannot have a go at me. Fuck Bleacher. I've done this differently. So in the end, we're going to do this. We're going to go the right way. It's the men's chamber. We already know who won it. There were some very interesting spots in there. One unfortunate spot that's led to another topic of discussion that's coming up shortly. But the men's chamber, and I'm gonna give this one first to we're definitely gonna give it to the Yank.
Yeah, I just missed my last bite of food too. That was just my last bite. So
all
right, let's fucking get into this shit.
Go on, man. So
first of all, just to Brock Lesnar and all of creative, fucking do one. If you want to talk about one of the, I've said this time and time again, Reece, you've heard this since the first time we talked about wrestling. I think part-timers in no way ever deserve to get a title around their belt, ever. I think the WWE creative bending over and spreading their cheeks for The Rock and for Lesnar time and time again is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. I also think, in terms of who the last guy is to face Lesnar, are we really doing fucking Austin Theory? Are we fucking... Is it just become a joke now that we're just going to throw shit like that out here? I mean, I'd literally rather watch paint dry than watch Brock Lesnar fight at this point. Because I know the result way more... it's going to be a lot more interesting to watch paint dry because you don't know what's going to happen when freaking paint's dribbling down and all that shit. But I know exactly what's going to happen every single time I watch fucking Lesnar. It's going to be either, oh, he loses, but oh, he'll be back. And then, oh, he's back. Oh, wait, no, he's lost, so now he's going to leave for a couple months. Oh, and now he's back, so we got to give the title again. Let's just spread. I mean, how many times is creative going to spread their cheeks for this loser?
He is a 10-time champion as well, by the way.
And it's a disgrace. Because I bet you at least half of them are titles that he's won as a part-timer, where he's come back, had the title for 3 or 4 months, had it taken off him, and then fucked back off and gone and made a couple movies, or just decided he didn't want to fight anymore.
7 of those world title reigns are after 2012.
It's a disgrace.
His first title win obviously was after WrestleMania 30, so that would have been SummerSlam 2014.
You want to talk about one of the people I least like to listen to on the mic? It's Brock Lesnar. I think I've never seen him also. Oh yeah, I hate listening to him on the mic. There's a reason he's had Paul Heyman up his fucking butthole the entire time he's had this career. Because he needs.
Have you been watching Cowboy Lesnar? Come on, you can't deny he is actually so much better.
I think he looks like a giant jack piece of shit. Actually, with this getup, I absolutely can't stand it. As an American, and a country fan, and a person who has his own cowboy boots and cowboy hat at home, it's a disgrace. I hate him. I think he looks like a piece of shit. I think he is a piece of shit. I think everywhere I look, whenever I see his face, I don't want to watch wrestling whenever he comes back. I literally sometimes will wait. He's got better, but he's still shit. He's still shit. He's gone from being dog shit. He's gone from being horse shit to dog shit. He's improved. He doesn't stink as bad, but he still fucking sucks. He's still dog shit. And I literally stop.
Arch enemies, and this is why.
I'm not right wing at all, actually, funny enough. I'm Californian. We are literally the state of the left wing.
A very big. And Trevor, as usual,
a very large piece of shit. Exactly. And I think, this is how bad it is for me, is that every time Lesnar comes back to the WWE, I stop watching. I literally stop watching live. I watch highlights when he comes back because I can skip through anytime Lesnar's on screen. Every time he's on screen, I'm able to skip through it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm cowboy because my mother's from Nebraska, my father's from North Carolina, so I get the genes from them, but we settled in California.
That's not Adam Page's nickname.
Yeah.
All I think of when I hear, I thought you said Adam Cole for a second, and Adam Cole's a completely different rant. But no, every time he comes back to the WWE, I just turn off the television with Lesnar. He's gone from being a giant piece of horseshit to being a giant piece of dog shit on the mic. So he's improved, but he's still awful. He's someone who, when you look at him, if we want to talk about somebody who is not evolved whatsoever with his skill set and what he does for his moves, Lesnar is a prime example of what I think Roman Reigns will be in 20 years.
Yeah. And on that note, I'm going to pull out the bonbons for that comment.
Yeah, I think he's good. Roman Reigns now is going to be Lesnar in 20 years. Being brought back part-time, still got the exact same moveset from when he debuted, still a terrible person on the mic, but still getting handed shit because Vince McMahon and creative want to bend over and spread their cheeks for both Reigns and Lesnar. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. And yourself, Reece, where's the Skittles? Not got any this time. Not got any, but I do have bonbons. But on the sense of it, Hogan, yeah, he never had to evolve. He was the same. But obviously, before we even discuss the match, obviously, Eilidh was wanting to rant on Lesnar as well. So, Eilidh, you may proceed.
Preparing.
Okay, I'm going to try and come at this from a more measured approach because I've been stewing on this since it happened. We've seen so many wasted opportunities because of Brock Lesnar. We've seen a Money in the Bank match which it was either 7 or 8 people in it. It was the one with Ali, where Ali was at the top. I think it was 8, but it might have been 7.
It was 7.
7 possible options for who could go on, win a title, become a main eventer, build themselves up. It was 7. Brock Lesnar made it 8 because he walked down and just decided, oh, I'm going to be Brock Lesnar and I'm going to take that. And obviously booking has to decide that. He didn't just hard way come down and do it. But that ruined Mustafa Ali right there.
Mm-hmm. It did.
And okay, since then he's not been allowed to do anything, and I'm not going to throw all the blame at WWE because they say that, like, you know, you've got to, like, make your own opportunities and stuff, and there's not a whole lot of outcry backstage about Ali being, like, buried or something, or if it is, WWE are doing well to hide it. But this isn't meant to be about Ali. It's meant to be about the Alis. It's meant to be about all these people that should have got over instead of Brock Lesnar, should have been given the push instead of Brock Lesnar, were pushed, beat Lesnar, and still don't feel like a star. In Drew McIntyre's case, Drew McIntyre defeated Brock Lesnar and still doesn't feel like a star. He's back to doing job stuff with Corbin and Madcap Moss. He's not in the main event title picture. He's not even close.
Yeah.
Ali, absolutely nowhere to be seen. Yeah, you waste a Money in the Bank. You waste, in this recent year alone, in 2022, you have wasted Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber on the same clown to get to a match that you could have got to without either of those results. AJ Styles could have won the Rumble and Seth Rollins could have won the Chamber.
Exactly.
I mean, I much rather would have seen Riddle win this Chamber match than I would have seen Lesnar. Because at least Riddle's somebody new.
Yeah, but that...
somewhere where, I'm not saying it's his time to get over. I think Riddle's still a long time from even... I think right now he's still an IC or a US title person or a tag team with RK Bro. But I'm just so tired of the same old shit. For now. But I'm so tired of the same old shit.
I think in terms of how I think if you look at the Chamber, it was built realistically for 3 outcomes. Realistically, it was built for 3. Lesnar squashing it, the one that happened, although there was a spot there which should never have happened. I'll be getting your thoughts on that very shortly. Lashley somehow retaining the title, which never happened because of as per usual, the injury relate. We should just call the buckle bomb the injury bomb now because it just injures everybody. And the third outcome is either Rollins, which for me actually should have been the winner, or Styles. Should have been Styles or Rollins. I think those two are the best bets because you can get far better quality matches out of them. The Lesnar squash, or Lesnar or Lashley proving he's better than Lesnar. In the end, we got the squash. We got the spot where Lesnar decided, you know what, stuff it. I'm just going to smash my way out of the pod, which should never happened anyway. And obviously, he decided to do Shayna Baszler Part 2, which me and Keane, funnily enough, predicted last week. We actually predicted it would just be Baszler Part 2. But on the back of that, though, bar the squash, though, was there any moments or anything in that entire match that did stand out for you? Like for me, I thought the work of Austin Theory stood out. I thought Rollins initiating the start as well, like just winding up Theory, was actually quite good itself. I didn't particularly like the buckle bomb spot because that really did, unfortunately, ruin the quality of the match at the very end. It just took everything away. But is there anything in there that did stand out for you guys?
I mean, it stood out terribly that you had Theory being the final one to go up against Lesnar. I mean, if you are going to actually make this a legitimate win for Lesnar, you can't have Theory being his last roadblock before, winning it. You can't. You have him beat Rollins. You have him beat Styles for legitimacy reasons. You have to have that be the end. You can't have Riddle and you can't have Theory be the final two. You can't have an injured Lashley. You have to take out Styles or Rollins in the final. I think it devalues that win overall when you're going up against someone like Theory to win it. Theory had a low blow, which is the only reason he held on for as long as he did. But having that be the end result is terrible. I think what you do is you eliminate Riddle and you eliminate Theory early. Lashley got injured with the buckle bomb. He's gone. You have your final three be Rollins, Styles, and Lesnar, the three people most likely to win it, and the three people that if they win, it's kind of expected, but also if two of those people win, it's a very liked decision and a very favorable decision for a lot of fans.
Definitely.
You do not have the crap that they did where you have literally just, okay, we're just going to leave Theory to do it. Why?
No, you're right. And obviously you've seen the tweet, Conor. Obviously I filmed, like I took a video of the whole ending. I literally said it's Spider-Man versus Venom. Like Spider-Man is running from Venom just for this one. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And it was literally just, okay, you've got the low blow. What makes this? What can you do to this match to make it slightly better now you've had a low blow? That's right. You make Austin Theory shit himself. He scales the chamber, tries to physically escape, and then Lesnar just decides to smash his head off it 3 times off the glass, which is obviously the kayfabe side of it, and then does an F5 off the pod.
It's lazy. It's lazy, right? It's become the standard with WWE now. I
thought it was a good spot.
Writing.
I will
it's
admit,
a great spot, but it's lazy.
Yeah, and also they're lucky it was timed well, because if they got that wrong,
they're lucky it wasn't a botch.
Yeah,
that could have been. If that's a botch. That's a botch. That's Theory's career possibly over if he doesn't land correctly.
The good thing though is, even though he took that chamber the F5 off the chamber pod, even though he's the one that's last to take the pinfall, I do have a slight disagreement about parts of it. I think you could have had Austin Theory in the final 3 to lose. I think you could have, because he's actually, since he came to the main roster, he has been very solid in his ring work.
I've been the final 3, but not the final 2.
Maybe not final 2, but final 3. Yeah, I
think Rollins and
should have.
It's Rollins and Lesnar. Theory goes out, and then it's Rollins.
Yeah, Rollins or Styles. One of them two. I think purely for the sense of ring work has got to be. Ideally, it's got to be Styles. I think Rollins at the minute, his gimmick is good enough for any point in time to go out elimination. But I think purely for the sense of Styles works in splitting from Omos. It was the right. He should have been the one that should have been the final 2.
I will say this does more.
I wouldn't particularly care who would have got eliminated, though. I don't particularly care. The one thing I do care about is the fact that they chose to go for the most obvious botched decision.
Yeah, I think this is more for Theory's career than it does for Lesnar, this match.
The spot as well, the fact that he smashes away at the pod as well, that wasn't part of the plan. That was confirmed. That was not part of booking. Lesnar was not supposed to do that. He's decided that match was supposed to go 20 minutes, and it went 14:56. That match was 5 minutes less.
Because Lesnar's your child. He's a child.
Yeah, they've ruined it on that sense.
But honestly, I think this is more Theory going to the final 2. Bar just what happened with him, acting like Spider-Man versus Venom, just trying to escape and get away, and then just ended up being, F5 off the top of the pod, game over. Just getting to the final 2, I think, does more for Theory's career as a whole than it does help Lesnar at all, especially in legitimizing his win and him deserving to get the title. Because now you have all of us pretty much saying that was shit. That was the worst ending result you could have had. But when it comes to having Lesnar or Styles or Rollins win, even if you have Lesnar win, there's so many ways Lesnar could have won this better. This is literally the worst possible way Lesnar could have won the title for his reputability of having that title.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And obviously it makes my next question.
I also wondered if he was actually legal in the match.
You're right. Right. You would think breaking out of the pod before you're allowed to come out would be a little bit of I feel like
I wondered if he was actually legal in the match, because
what I would have loved. What I would have loved.
Lashley was due to
his pod hadn't opened.
No, what I would have loved, and I'll say this, and now you can tell me if I'm just as dumb as WWE's creative or if I'm actually talking something smart. I would have loved if you to evolve the storyline and maybe even have him in WrestleMania. You have him DQ'd off the bat for breaking out the pod.
But you
And you
can't,
have-
though, because it's a no disqualification match. You can physically
No, I
disqualify.
know, but you have-
what
you
you
have
can
something-
do, but what you can do is you book that rematch, which, funnily enough, has already been booked, March 15th. It's Lesnar versus Lashley in Madison Square Garden. You then have Lashley beat Lesnar, but somehow the main event is still a triple threat, because I still think that's what's could possibly happen. I wouldn't be surprised if they do last minute change. Lashley
you know what I
versus
do?
Lesnar
You know what I
versus
would
Reece.
do? I'd have something where, and even if it wasn't
I'd rather have Lashley versus Rollins, though, and Rollins finally wins the world title.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Do you have Lesnar versus Lashley in the next pay-per-view, like it's been booked, and you have Rollins come out and cost Lesnar the match that ends up giving the title back over to Lashley? Now Lesnar wants his rematch. Rollins has put himself in the situation where he's like, I won you that title back by distracting him and helping you win that. I want my shot now. And that kind of sets up a perfect triple threat. And then you have Rollins, I think, take it.
Rollins has to get the way his gimmick is going right now. You have to put the title back on him, because he is actually drawing better right now than he was before. This gimmick he's actually done. The gimmick he's working with right now is actually drawing better. You've got to put the title on him. But in the sense of where they're going, you just know that when it comes to the MSG event, it's Lesnar will probably squash Lashley, which is ridiculous, but it's still probably most likely to happen. But Eilidh, just on the match quality though, let's just disregard Lesnar for a second, because obviously in terms of that, he wasn't technically legal in the match. Lashley was due to come out 5th. Lesnar decided, fuck this, I'm actually going to go off script. Comes out, wins the thing. But just in terms of overall match quality, is there anything in there that you could say the booking was actually done right, or do you think there was more cause for concern? Because I think that match wasn't particularly... I didn't think it was the best closing chamber match.
I would have rather had it before the women's chamber match if it was going to be that shite. I mean, and I'll give you what Bleacher Report said in their analysis of it in their grade, because I think it kind of sums it up perfectly. I think you'll agree with it.
Say that again, sorry, I couldn't hear you there. My apologies.
I think I've got a bit of connection issues on this.
I can hear you now.
I think it was guaranteed to not send the crowd home happy in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was guaranteed just not to work. Like, you're giving Brock Lesnar this win, and the casual fans love Brock Lesnar, but the diehards didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just give real quick. This is Bleacher Report's analysis of it, and they gave it a C. And they said Styles, Rollins, and Riddle all deserve better than how they were treated here. Dispatch is mere afterthoughts. It would be argued that their use was downright just disrespectful, not for one moment were they booked as if they were any threat to Lesnar in the match. There were plenty of other directions to head with the booking, particularly given how close Styles came to beating Lesnar at Survivor Series in 17 and Rollins at WrestleMania 35 when he actually took down Lesnar. Instead, two guys the company will rely on to carry its flagship show beyond the shows are now kind of devalued. Riddle, who's had momentum on his side and is a star for the future, has now been devalued as well by this result. WWE did wonders with Theory, putting him in the position it did and allowing him to get a little bit of a star rub, which I agreed with. He was a tapping dummy, but he was there, and that's what mattered, and that's what's going to help his career. It was obvious entering the bout that Lesnar would win, and protecting Lashley in the defeat would be the key to set the rematch, which we now have seen. But the manner in which the Almighty was removed is fine. It gives him an excuse for the title match that he was injured. But the execution of everything was poor, and that's what hurts this match. And that's how they analyze this, and I fully agree.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And the fact that it does at least give you some sort of building block saying, well, I didn't technically lose my title. I was removed due to injury. Give me the rematch. It's then being signed off straight away. So March 15th, you're going to get the rematch. There is still a good making for WrestleMania on this. Like, they could change the plans at Madison Square Garden because they already did that with the IC title. They did that. They changed plans. They gave the title back to Zayn. It wouldn't surprise me if they do it with this. They give Lashley the title back and they'll go a different way.
Do you throw Riddle into that IC title or US title discussion now that he's had a big event like the Chamber where he was devalued in it? But do you give him kind of he's had this momentum going? RK Bro is such a great and huge thing that was very much well liked. Do you throw him into the IC title conversation, the US title conversation now?
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's time.
I think you should put him in that area. And
he beat Orton. He beat Orton, so I think even just that alone and his work that he does, his in-ring ability and his mic skills, he deserves the right to go try and get something in a singles realm. They took way too long with Kofi. I don't want to see them take this long with someone like Riddle, because Kofi's career was stalled and had to be revamped multiple times because of how slow WWE creative was to push him to finally give him a title that was legit like the WWE title. I really hope they don't do the same to Riddle.
Mm-hmm. I agree. What about you, Eilidh?
I mean, everyone who was in that match deserves some kind of path to WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the Intercontinental title's particularly where Riddle should look, because, I mean, firstly, Intercontinental title SmackDown, he's on Raw. The US titles had absolutely no energy behind it. And Riddle had that belt before when it had energy around it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was confusing to me that he sort of was sacrificed. And WWE do this a lot now. Someone loses a title, and then 90% of the time they forget that they can fight for that title again down the line.
Absolutely.
Just doesn't make sense to me.
No, you're right. And I'm just going to look up. There's one thing I really want to look at, and that's it's literally just the length of his title reign, because obviously he's been going that long. Like, he's been, like, Damian Priest has been US champion for 184 days. So he's been champion 53 days longer than Sheamus was. 135 days longer than Riddle. Riddle was champion for 49 days. And obviously Lashley was champion before that for 175. So he's also had a lengthy period longer than there. I'm going to say in a limb, and he's basically Damian Priest. I like Damian Priest. I think he's fantastic in the ring. His mic work needs a little bit of improvement, though. I think he is lacking in that area, but he's very good in the ring. Damian Priest is to the US title what many have been, because there's been so many title reigns. Many title reigns after the Miz's 8th title reign for the Intercontinental title has been downhill ever since that. Since he's not held the title, I think not many's been able to actually keep it going. Changing the design ruined it. Nakamura cannot get interest in the title. Apollo Crews literally dragged it to the core. Like, he ruined the title, in my opinion. One of the worst champions I've ever seen. Sami Zayn at least made it entertaining. He had a Shawn Michaels type feel to it, where
Sami Zayn is just entertaining, period.
Like, exactly, but he had that feel about Shawn Michaels from 93, 94 when he was ruled out with the title. He came back to declare himself the champion. He had a brilliant triple threat ladder match with Jeff Hardy and Styles. He handcuffed Jeff Hardy's ear to the ladder, fantastic spot, and then he completely ruined Styles in the ring. Completely ruined him. And then after that, the title picture for the US title has been shit. Literally, nice way to say it. It's been awful. And of all the titles in the WWE, my favorite is always going to be the Intercontinental title, not the world titles, because it's always been great. I want the Universal title binned. I want the world title back. I want the big gold belt back. The WWE title is there. It's relevant. But I've always admired the IC title. It's always my favourite, going back to Bret Hart's SummerSlam 91, Mr. Perfect's fantastic reign, Ultimate Warrior in the 80s, Macho Man Randy Savage in the 80s as well. He held it for a year.
Title, you just think of stars who have held that title. The U.S. Championship, you look at it and you look at a lot of not stars at all. It's a lot of jobbers title.
No, not really.
It's gone down that path a little bit, though, as it's kind of changed to a jobbers title. It used to be, and what the Intercontinental Championship is, which is a stars have this.
It has came down a long way. Like, to this day, the record holder for the US title is still Lex Luger's 585-day title reign. Like, it's still the record. But there's so much to it that really does need to do better. Yeah, Eilidh, if that's the case, that's fine. But it's been great speaking to you. I'm hoping that does not happen, though. I'm hoping, because obviously we've got the quiz coming up shortly after we wrap up. Lee, obviously, I've been saving that for last. But before I do talk about that, like Sean Ray's obviously, Andrew, fantastic one. Trevor again with a belter of a comment. Damien Priest was fired from the Vatican and became champ. What a story. Riddle me this. Do you think he can become Pope?
I will say it's interesting because you know who Riddle is closest. You know who Priest is closest to backstage out of everybody in the locker room.
Riddle.
It's Riddle. When Riddle won the tag team title, the first person to give him a hug and congratulate him was Damien Priest. I think that kind of adds to it being the perfect time to go throw him back into the U.S. title race. Because when you have two guys that are very close backstage, know each other very well, I think not only does this make it to where it legitimizes the U.S. Championship again, but I think you have two guys who know each other, love each other, are very good friends outside of the ring. I think it would deliver some very good matches, especially because they're also two very different kinds of wrestlers. You have Riddle, who's kind of the more bouncing around, doing more kind of high-flying stuff. Priest is a bigger dude who's kind of just more into the power dynamic. I think it would bring very, very good matches. And it's kind of a good storyline where you have friend against friend. One of them will have the title, and it kind of is something where it may add a little bit of spiciness, and I think it'll re-legitimize that championship.
Yeah.
It looks like we've lost.
Yeah, I think Eilidh's having internet connections, but she did post in the StreamYard's private chat that she was having some technical issues.
I mean,
hopefully she can come back though. But she is having.
It was great meeting her and talking to her. She definitely knows her shit.
She's awesome. She's awesome. But I'll say this quickly for Trevor before we talk about the final match of the evening. Lex Luger, very controversial man. What do I think of the story? Controversial as fuck, and should never have happened. In my opinion, should never happen because it really made a lot difficult for people, especially personal lives. Not for me. But I do digress in the sense of I did this on purpose. So we are going to discuss the women's title match, which for me, and I'm saying this now, the women's title match had the best spots. For the Raw women's title match, had the best spots in the entire match. Or the entire show, in fact. The best show, it had the best spots. The two missed moonsaults with the Twist of Fate spot. Sorry, the missed moonsault from Becky Lynch. The attempt from Lita, which hit successfully. And then obviously the quick counter into it is the rock bottom. I'm not calling it the manhandle slam, which is just ridiculous. But generally, like that overall match quality, 12-minute match, ideally, roughly, very good time frame. What was your overall thoughts on that one? I thought it was fantastic.
I thought it did exactly what it was supposed to do, and I thought it was fantastic. I think it's exactly how I predicted it would go as well. You'd have it beat pretty even. Lita takes a little bit of an edge, gets a couple 2 counts with her roll-ups.
Yep.
Becky ends up winning it as we thought. And again, this is something where it's perfectly been summed up by Bleacher Report. I've got to give my hats off to. I've been reading their article on there, what happened, what they graded it, and what their analysis of it. And pretty much everyone's been spot on. And this is what they say about this. They give it a B+. I think a very good score for that match. And they say, much like Stratus did in her match with Charlotte Flair in 2019, Lita proves she can still hang with the top women's wrestlers of this generation. She went 11 minutes in her first match in 15 years and stunned the fans with their ability to keep them invested and produce an emotional roller coaster ride. What started slow and testified with every high spot, culminating in the moonsault false finish that had everyone thinking they were about to witness a new champion. Lynch, as she has done so many times, narrowly escaped before she finds a way to win the otherwise seemed non-existent chance. A great bit of storytelling with Lynch doing the heavy lifting and Lita exceeding all expectations. This is a strong addition to what was a fantastic show. And now it's time to run it back with Bianca Belair between Becky and Bianca. It sets it up perfectly.
Exactly, and it's the match that we should actually get at WrestleMania. It's the right match overall in terms of storyline, building differently. You gave Liv Morgan the push that rightfully she needed. She could still be involved at WrestleMania. I think she could still get into the match, get like with those two. But ideally, this is the one you needed, and obviously for the good ones is obviously people that wanted Rangers to get beat tonight. Ha 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 ha. Fuck you.
Down goes Dortmund.
That's all I can say is yes, perfection. And I actually like the work of Lita in the ring. I thought her style was a bit more adaptable than it was before. Obviously, she's mature, and obviously she's admitted that like she's having to find a second prime, which is rare. Only Edge seems to have discovered a second prime. But
can I just say I loved Edge using his wife's finisher move? I thought that was absolutely good. You want to talk about power couples, man? I love Edge. I love Edge and Beth Phoenix more than I like Miz and Marie. So I think you want to talk about power couples. Oh my, that's a perfect power couple because they fit each other so well as their characters and as people. I think Edge and Beth Phoenix are like two that like, if you look at like a couple that would be really good together, they just fit very well. I loved him using her fit because I love Beth Phoenix's finishing move, and I think him doing it was perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Andrew, you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah, no, it's just
he's fantastic in the like for anybody who watches like comic book related series. He's fantastic in the Flash. I'm no joke. He's fantastic. One episode, and he's absolutely brilliant. He's not just a fantastic actor. He's not just a fantastic entertainer. He's not just a fantastic wrestler and performer in any shapes of the book to describe him as a role. He's just a phenomenal human being. He's got a great mind for the business. Even when he retired at such a young age, he was forced to retire 11 years ago. He's came back.
He's smart. He's a good person. He's great at acting. He's great at making everything believable. And he's a brilliant wrestler who doesn't botch. Really, ever.
Exactly. He doesn't botch. And he could have, just like Shawn Michaels could have a 5-star match for a broomstick, Styles could have a 5-star match for a broomstick, Seth Rollins could have a 5-star match for a broomstick, Edge can have a 5-star match with a fucking broomstick.
Edge could have a wrestling match against a wet blanket. He'd still make that look incredible and look better than anything Nia Jax is going to do or anything, a lot of wrestlers nowadays would do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about deliverance and understanding your role. And he's got such a fantastic psychology. He's got a fantastic mind for the business. He'd be great for creative. He would be not in the sense of like direction for being like the main writer, but he could give you great creative ideas. He could.
Him, Mysterio. I'll even throw the Miz in there. I think John Morrison. I think there's a lot of guys that are. And I think right now, if you look at great minds for the business, you look at a lot of the older generation of people. I think my dream team is creative as Randy Orton. Oh, definitely. Whether it's the Intercontinental title, whether it's whatever, whether you even just give him the belt, the big belt for a month and a half.
What I want though is what I really do want, and I know this is a bit of a mad one, but I want him to win the WWE title at SummerSlam. I want him to have it at SummerSlam somehow. I don't know how they do it. Maybe a third Money in the Bank cash in. He can be the Steve Austin.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Do you give him the Money in the Bank to give him that one last title push, give it to him for a month and a half, and just have him lose it and bow out as being a guy who's won just another one and been so great?
Go one step further. You make him the Steve Austin of Money in the Banks. You give him free. You then let him cash in properly this time. Not how he's done it in the past, which is proper cash-ins, but like let him do what the likes of RVD and Cena did. Let them cash in, have a full match, let him win the title in Canada. Put the belt down, retire as world champion. the way he should have done it. Like the way he deserved. Like go out the way he should. Let him retire as world champion.
You know, it'd be kind of fun. Is if for that match in Canada, I know he's not part of WWE anymore, but just allow me this fantasy for one moment, please.
Okay.
Have Christian on the commentator's table announcing that final match. Oh my gosh, yeah, you want to talk about talent.
Wrestle War That's versus Wrestle War versus Ric Flair. 47-minute match. Completely agree. And also the best 2 out of 3, like the 2 out of 3 falls match was amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Ricky,
You've been a fantastic guest. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And it's great to have you on and joining us from the live chat this evening. Thank you very much. Andrew, Cornet for the old school pure genius of simple logic. Lance for his calmness, rationality, and knowing different types of styles. And Danielson because he just gets it psychology-wise. Absolutely. And also that's why he said his dream creative team is Cornet, Storm, Danielson. For me, I'm going to, in terms of creative, I like those 3. I would like Edge on there.
Edge Orton, Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, but there's one other name for me. He's got great psychology in the ring, and I think you could use him for advice.
Just a consultant.
I would honestly say the Undertaker.
Oh yeah. So I think you have Edge, you have Bryan Danielson, and you have someone like Randy Orton be the main 3 creatives, and then you have Undertaker who just comes along every once in a while. And I would even agree with Regal being just have Regal and the Undertaker be consultants who just are helping feed information of, hey, we think go this route. Because for me, then you have 5 guys who have done 3 things. They've done it all. They've won it all. They've had longevity in their careers. And they have a brilliant mind and have rarely, I think, if you look at all 5 of them, rarely you ever see any of them botch anything in their career. When you're talking about bad spots, botches, and stuff like that, you rarely ever bring up any of those 5 names.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's what's perfect. You have those 5, and they have, because you can't argue with any of them because they've won it all. They've won the WWE Championship. They've won Intercontinental Championships, tag team titles multiple times over US. They've won everything. They've had the longevity. All of these guys have done it 10 plus years. Undertaker, the streak. Randy Orton's been doing this forever. Edge has had so many titles. Bryan Danielson, even before he came to WWE, was doing it forever. He's still doing it, still being a baller out in AEW. Regal didn't do it all, but had longevity, and honestly, I think was a very good head of NXT. I think he was
fantastic psychology and reading the room, reading the environment as well.
And they know how to read the fans. They know how to read the fans because you see like the types of characters they do and how they interact with fans on the mic and in matches. They know how to interact a certain way with the fan base to get them to react how they want them to.
They need to get rid of Bruce Pritchard. He's past it, and I say that in the nicest way because he's got a great mind for the business, but he's past it in terms of creative. Like he should not be the main focal point. But Andrews said the 4 most beautiful things in wrestling: Bobby Eaton's Alabama Jam, good shout. Steamboat's armbar, Angle moonsault, the Savage Elbow. I'm going to add one more to that. Normally, I would say the Undertaker Tombstone. But I'm actually going to say a Shawn Michaels super kick because it wasn't always the same. It wasn't always the same where it was expected or it was going to happen. Like it was literally just you could have like one where you know it was coming, and then 2 minutes later, it's just carrying on like a normal wrestling match. Then straight away super kick, and you're like, "What the fuck did that come from? Like where the fuck did that come from?" And there were so many great moments like that, and I'm like, that is reading the room. That is reading the environment. That is building to the crowd. And I just like that suspense. Yeah, Bret Hart Russian leg sweep as well. Completely agree. There's just so many great spots, and that ties into the match we're discussing, which was Lita versus Becky Lynch. There were some very great spots, including the counter of the counters of the submission holds, which was great. Becky's armbar being countered in the best way. The attempt for the moonsault, allowing that to happen and then missing it. Seeing the twist of fate again in that manner was great. And a big match.
Everyone is a beautiful move that I always really like to see. I think it always looks very clean.
A DDT?
No, and this is one of my favorite. He's actually one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He's always been my top 5 favorite. John Morrison, Starship Pain. Just consistently looked good. Never really botched it. Always, even whether it hit or they got out of the way, always looked good. Always just, and the way it looks when he does it, it just looks like a good and beautiful move.
I would also say I'm also going to pay homage to another one. Andrew's going to like this one. Yeah, Andrew's going to like this one. Top rope Vader moonsault.
Oh my god! Vader's one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time. Prove me wrong.
You physically can't.
You can't. You can't.
He had fantastic. He had great matches with anybody. He had a great match with Hogan in '94. He had a fantastic early '90s feud with Sting. He had fantastic matches with Ric Flair. And he was great with anybody. He was great with Taker. He was great with Mankind, who had fantastic spots on his own, like Mick Foley. He was great with Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam. That was a very underrated match at in terms of SummerSlam matches and just world title matches in general. That 28 minutes of opportunities where Shawn Michaels wins by count out. Sorry, Vader wins by count out. Then Shawn Michaels wins by disqualification. And
you know, big man I hated.
Kevin Nash.
Big man that I did not like. No, Viscera.
Oh, Viscera. Yeah, he was great.
Viscera,
I'm glad you didn't agree on Kevin Nash because I like Kevin Nash.
No, I love Kevin Nash. I think Kevin Nash is a piece of shit. His last stint in the WWE, but Viscera's got to be one of the worst big men of all time. I love for how bad he was.
He was shit.
Rest in peace, Tim, but he's shit. One of the worst wrestlers of all time when it comes to big men, but I loved him to death. It was a great colleague.
Absolutely. Mick Foley was just constant invention.
Mick Foley's winning the title isn't even my favorite moment of all time.
His best feud was 100%. It was definitely The Rock, and then after that, his best feud is The Undertaker. Then it's The Rock. But in terms of WWE, but outside, his best feuds are Big Van Vader and Sting in WCW. He was underrated work.
I just loved his. It doesn't matter what you It doesn't matter what you think to Rock. One of my favorite mic drops ever to happen in WWE or WWF or whatever you want to call it. Because even The Rock, you can tell, either wasn't expecting it or just. I bet you when they were practicing that bit, The Rock had trouble not cracking up every single time, because if he's able to, he's very professional and very good at his job. If he's smiling that much and looking like he's about to laugh, and he really should be kind of angry,
you know you got him.
You know he was cracking up every single time they practiced this backstage. So they just did not tell him that it was happening, and he's just like, "Oh shit, can't laugh.
Absolutely, and it's just sheer greatness, isn't it? Obviously. Tonight is also, as we are towards the end, we do have 2 more things to do. You're gonna do your quiz.
Oh, fine.
You're gonna get questions, just random questions, just test you on your own. And also, I just want to ask your thoughts on finally Taker's going into the Hall of Fame. Just before we come to the quiz, just your lasting thoughts. What is your overall thoughts on the greatest character of all time finally going into that Hall of Fame?
There's things that are just no brainers. The sky is blue, grass is green. The Undertaker is a Hall of Famer. There's things that are just obvious, and that's one of them. Undertaker, in my opinion, for me, is the greatest wrestler of all time.
Yeah.
All time. He is the number one to ever step foot in the squared circle. There is nobody before, when he was in the WWE, or ever in the future that will ever encompass just how great he was. To stick with what he had two characters his entire career. His regular, his three. But my two that I like to think about the most are, of course, his Undertaker, his, what he had for pretty much when he started to when he finished. And I also loved his American Badass.
Mm-hmm.
I loved big ass dude on a big ass chopper riding down to the ring is one of the greatest things. I love it. I love it. It inspired me. Funny enough, it inspired me to want a motorcycle. Watching him drive that motorcycle down to the ring, his character actually inspired me to be the person who I really badly want my own Harley Davidson. But you talk about everything that makes a wrestler great, that makes him a Hall of Famer. Ability in the ring, smoothness in his moves, changing up his moves and constantly adapting, longevity, titles, mic skills, storyline believability. Every single aspect of his career is Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
There is no bad aspect of The Undertaker. And that's why, for me, it's a no-brainer because he is hands down the greatest wrestler to ever step foot in any wrestling business ever and always will be.
And if you look at the two Broken Skull interviews he does with Steve Austin, the best thing about it. So that's how he broke him. I always thought it was Steve Austin because of the same timing. Shane Douglas, wow, that's crazy. He got buried by the Click. Taker's psychology, like he spoke in those interviews with Steve Austin twice. He referred to the timings he took, like breaks each time, like he knew when to evolve his character going from the Ministry Taker, which is still one of his best adaptations. That adaptation, then he moved into the American Badass because he knew he wouldn't have survived the Attitude Era if he didn't do it. He then goes back into the hybrid version where he was told if it didn't work out from WrestleMania 20 when he returned, if it didn't work out, he can go back to the Badass gimmick. He was told like agreement, but it was fantastic success when he was the hybrid Deadman. When he then became the 5-star match taker, he wasn't really a 5-star match until then. After that, every year he had a 5-star match because his psychology was the absolute best ever. And that's what I liked about him, and that's something I've always loved about him. And his work in the ring, longevity. He maybe should have retired slightly earlier than he did, and he admitted that himself. He didn't know when was the right time to do it. He
should have never had that streak. He should have retired undefeated in WrestleMania. If there's something that I will never forgive WWE for, it's for letting. And this isn't just because I hate Lesnar. This isn't just because I hate Lesnar, because I didn't hate him before he became a part-time jockey who just would win whenever he came back. He just didn't deserve to lose that streak, period. And one thing that also really makes, I think, Undertaker a great guy is even now we saw the whole, I don't know if you've seen the YouTube videos. Napoli got destroyed.
Wow.
Napoli got destroyed today. I checked the scores. Napoli got absolutely
bunch of bottle jobs.
But when I don't know if you've seen the videos, of course, I forget his name, but the big guy that's down next to me right now, going around and getting stuff for the Hall of Fame museum that they're starting up. An Undertaker's episode where it's just like, oh, the mask, his cloak, and he's just going, yeah, just have it.
That's what I like him. I loved the brief period of the Phantom Taker. Obviously, that was because of Viscera. Obviously, then King Mabel legitimately injuring him. Proper annoyed me how that happened, but that just shows like not all big men are good workers. And he certainly wasn't. He was very dangerous. Broke his orbital bone. Undertaker earned his way to number one. I love that. Fantastic spin on
and also
earn it by using earn.
Can you name the top 5 Undertaker moments without having there be an argument against every single one of them for something else?
Too difficult to do. far too difficult. But in the top 3 alone, in the terms of top 3 moments alone, his debut, the return at WrestleMania 20 when he went back to the Dead Man character, when he introduced the hybrid version, when he included the pace of the American Badass gimmick, he included the pace to make his matches better. And the third one is either Kane's debut or the hand out of the Buried Alive match when he got buried against Mankind in '96. Literally, out of those 4 that I've named could be the 3 as well. Like, you could pick out one of those 4 for your top 3.
You can name 30 different moments from Undertaker's career that would be in the top 10. That would spark a great wrestler.
I will say this though. Yep, I agree with this. No one hates him. Probably the most popular backstage ever.
Hands down.
I will say this because obviously I love the guy to death. The man Iron Sheik. Sheiky absolutely hates Hulk Hogan. Taker as well. Hulk Hogan fucked him over in '91. Taker was 25 years old, and he fucked him over by claiming that he injured him. Taker was, even with a tombstone, was safe, and Hulk Hogan fucking ruined him. So as far as I'm concerned, Hulk Hogan, you're not the greatest ever. Nowhere near for that. Ruining him. Like, fuck you. But it's so important that how it reflects that coming in first time as world champion, his title reign got absolutely ruined because of Hulk Hogan claiming he got injured when he didn't. But I'm just glad he's finally getting in.
You look at Undertaker, and he was one of the safest wrestlers to ever go against, even though even his one submission move, that finisher that he had, which I forget what it was called. I think it was Hell's Gate.
Yeah, too, because he had the triangle choke as well. But yeah, the Hell's Gate was definitely that.
That looked dangerous, but he was safe about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Obviously, he was coming in from the UFC. Obviously, he was getting involved with MMA a lot more, but obviously they couldn't cope with him at the start, but they did eventually. But that's where it is. But obviously, it's time to close out the show with Conor's quiz. But here's the fun thing for you, right? Because obviously, Eilidh's internet unfortunately got in the way, so it would have been you versus Eilidh.
Yeah.
Keane would have been on, but Keane can't make it tonight. So I am going to give you a choice of 3 question sets. Either you can have the ones for yourself. They're all out of 8 points, by the way. They're all out of 8, but it's 5 questions. You can either have the questions that was for you, the questions for Eilidh, or the questions for Keane. Choice is yours.
Surprise me.
No, it's your choice. You get to pick.
I'll take the ones for Keane.
You want to take the ones for Keane. Okay. So, question number 1. The United States title has been, on 3 occasions, been won by 4 men. So 3 times by 4 men. And you got a point for each. Can you name all 4?
Oh shit. Okay. I'm bad at quizzes. So
It's
I'm not
all, and I'll be fair to you. It's only in WWE, so this is not including WCW. This is just purely WWE reigns since the title was brought back for them. So 4 men, 3 title reigns. Can you name them?
Well, I think Cena's one because Cena seems to have won it a lot. So I guess Cena.
Okay, I won't name them if you've got any right or wrong until you've given me 4 guesses.
I'll go Cena. Trying to think of someone who just consistently just would win it, and I think The Miz, because I think The Miz has won it multiple times. I know I've seen him with it on him at least twice.
Try think past decade as well and recency, because that also will affect. Yeah, and also a very controversial name is also on this list.
Oh, okay. If controversial, the first thing that pops in my mind is Lex Luger because we were just talking about him. That's what pops in my head, and I know he.
WWE only, not WCW.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, I forgot
But
that.
think of another controversial one. Think 2007 controversy.
Oh shit! When I think of 2007, 2008, I think of Triple H because of his whole.
Not,
See, I'm
not,
bad.
not US title. Not US title. Right, put it this way. I'm going to give you a clue. This guy was supposed to win the ECW title in 2007.
Oh, shit.
Before, let's just say he was black marked.
See, for me, this is hard because I was 8. I was 8 in 2007.
I
So,
will
like,
give
I'm having to-
and I will give that point to Andrew as well. Like for his own. Andrew has named them. Obviously,
Okay,
I'm not
I'm looking at the private chat because I don't want any help, and I just.
excellent.
But this is from when I was like anything. I started watching when I was like 7 years old, so it's hard for me. My memory's terrible, so it's hard for me a little bit to delve back into.
When you hear his name, you'll slap your face. Put it that way.
Oh, I know I will.
But so far, you've given me 2 guesses, I think.
Yeah, I think I gave you Cena and I gave you Miz.
Okay, I just need 2 more, and then I'll tell you how you've done from this question.
See, 2007. I know isn't Guerrero. Rest in peace, because we all know what happened with Eddie Guerrero. Even though I think
True, but that is a very big clue, because who also passed away 2 years later. Well, I wouldn't say passed away.
Oh, now I know what you mean by controversial because it's Benoit.
Okay, so
Benoit.
that's 3.
He was such a good wrestler, man. I hated that happened to that was what ended up happening with him because he was such a good wrestler.
And just to let you know, Arsenal have won 2-1. Just to let you know, they scored right at the very end.
Fuck's sake.
So that's 3 guesses. Need 1 more. Can you think of anybody else? Remember, we've all said recency, and think about the pay-per-view we've been talking about.
Recency. Not Priest.
Think about the actual chamber match itself and who was in it.
Oh, was it? Oh, shit, because I have 2 in there. I have 3, actually, that I'm looking in there.
Go on.
Oh,
pick the one that you think actually does make more sense.
I'd go Lashley because he's been, and I feel like I'm wrong.
You were the name you were going to say first.
My name I was going to say first was going to be, I think it was going to be Styles.
Styles would have got you 2 out of 4 points.
Shite. Who else did I get?
So you got Benoit, so you got 1 point out of 4 from that one. You're going to be shocked at this, by the way. I'm not kidding. So for 3 title reigns by 4 people, you've got AJ Styles, Rusev, Sheamus, Chris Benoit. That's okay.
He did have it so many times, didn't he? Oh my god! And I love Sheamus too. He's had
3 reigns each by those 4. And in terms of WWE for winning the US title, the most reigns is John Cena with 5.
See, that's why John Cena's got the most reigns.
Yeah, no surprise though. But yeah, he has it on 5.
You know why? It's because I was thinking when I think of Sheamus, I just think of it as one long time that he had that title because he kept losing it and winning it back. So I just think of it as one long title reign for him.
Yeah, in terms of reigns, they are joint second. It goes Cena, then those 4 names. That's how crazy it is. And then obviously MVP with 2. Lex Luger had it 4 times in WCW with 1 big reign of 580 days. But obviously, we're not counting WCW. Question 2. Question 2. I think you'll get this one. I think you'll get this one straight off the bat. This is WrestleMania only. At WrestleMania 17, The Undertaker met Triple H for the first time at the pay-per-view. But how many times have they fought each other at WrestleMania? So overall, how many?
Ooh, okay.
So it's just WrestleMania matches only. Taker versus Triple H. How many do you think?
I say 3.
Spot on.
Yeah, 3.
WrestleMania 17, WrestleMania 27, WrestleMania 28. So,
and of course, Triple H didn't want to see one of those.
That's true. Well, yeah, naturally. And obviously, I'll tally. You're currently on 2 points out of 5, sir. So it's not too bad.
Not terrible.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Question 3. Edge has won the Money in the Bank twice. He won the ladder match at WrestleMania 21, but he didn't win the Money in the Bank match at WrestleMania 23. But who did he beat to take the briefcase? Who did he beat?
On WrestleMania 23.
So obviously it was won by an individual. So obviously the winner at WrestleMania 23 won the Money in the Bank, and then Edge would then win it on Raw. He won it from him on Raw. So who did Edge steal the Money in the Bank from before he cashed it in against Undertaker? It was all done.
What year was WrestleMania 23?
2007.
Because my first guess was Miz, but I don't think Miz was on the scene at that point.
Not in that match, anyway. He wasn't in the match. Would you like me to name the participants for you to make it easier?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, so that match you had Edge Orton, the Hardys. You had King Booker.
No.
You also had Mr. Kennedy. And you had CM Punk. No, you had Finlay, sorry. You had Finlay. So out of those names, who won the match and then lost to Edge?
Gonna go Jeff Hardy?
Sadly incorrect. Hardy and Edge was ruled out the match after a ladder match spot, leg drop through the ladder.
That's right.
The winner was, correct Andrew, Mr. Kennedy.
God, you want to talk about a dude I hated to listen to.
Yep, he lost it. He lost it after he rubbed a few people the wrong way. Put it that way. Question number 4. Question 4. This one's slightly older, so you might need to have a little bit of a think on this one. This is quite an old one. Question 4. Who did Bret Hart win the IC title from at SummerSlam 91? SummerSlam 91. Who did Mr. Perfect? So who did Bret Hart beat?
See, I have a name pop into my mind, and it just won't get out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could have sworn they fought for the title, and I could have sworn that Hart won it, and it's Yokozuna.
Nope.
But
I actually said the name by mistake. The answer is Mr. Perfect.
It is okay.
Yeah,
because I remember
I actually said it, and then I was like, I've just said it by mistake, but he's actually not noticed. So that's actually okay with me. That's all.
No, because I heard it, and I'm just like, I think I was so focused on the fact that literally Yokozuna would not get out of my head because I remember them two fighting for a title. They fought for a title.
WrestleMania 9 and 10 world title.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So your final question is: can you name any 2 superstars that won the Royal Rumble back to back? Or, if you want to go a little bit further, I will let you name any more for an extra point. So, if you can name, so the original question is, can you name 2? But there are more. If you can name any back to back, you get a point for each. So it's just who won the Royal Rumble back to back. Can you name anyone? Just take your time.
Oh my gosh.
I can confirm, Andrew, you have one of them.
And see, I'm thinking old school because I remember in the old school days, you usually saw the same people win it a lot.
Which is fine.
I know Stone Cold did.
Yep, that's correct. Point. Andrew, that's another one.
I'm going to throw out, because of just how big he was, I'm going to throw out Hogan.
Yes. Hogan was the first man to do it, 1990 and 1991.
Oh.
If you can give me another name, I will give you a point. There is actually one more name. There is one more.
He won it twice, and I can remember him winning it twice. I'm not sure if he won it back to back. And we mentioned him earlier when we talked about the smoothest moves. You threw out his finisher as the smoothest move that you thought was beautiful, and that's Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. I know he won it twice.
You named all three. Only three men have won the Royal Rumble back to back.
Because I knew each of them had won it twice, and I knew back in the old school days you had the same people winning it very often.
Exactly. In terms of that, back to back, Hogan 1990, 1991, Shawn Michaels 95 and then 96, and then Steve Austin 97 and 98. So I will give you three there. So, which means instead of 8 points, instead of 9, we change it. We'll put up to 9. 3 there. 1. Yeah. 4 out of 9.
I'll take it. With how bad my memory is and
That's not bad.
how long I stopped watching wrestling and really following it for a solid 5 years. I'll take that.
It's still not bad.
Yeah.
4 out of 9. 4 out of 9 is a good performance. So we will take that. And then next week, Keane is back to go on the quiz. So if you want to get involved, like watch it, just let us know. But as we come towards the end, awesome. As we're coming towards the end of the show, though, I do appreciate you being on, Connor. Thank you. First time on the Weekly Armchair. Can I get you to just shout out your socials, please, and where we can find you?
Yeah. Had a brilliant time. Thanks for having me. I haven't been able to actually sit and talk wrestling like this in like a decade. I used to have my best friend growing up. He's the one who got me into wrestling. We talked wrestling, and he was my go-to guy up until I was about 12, 13. I moved away. And then he moved out of state in about 2016. So I haven't had anybody to talk to about wrestling. So it's been great to come on and have someone else to finally like just talk about everything and talk about old wrestlers as well that I'm a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, find me on Twitter at Yank Talking Smack right there. That's my Twitter. I have a YouTube channel. I don't post. So I have some decent videos on there, I'd say, for just hyping myself up. I have some decent videos on there, but don't post. You're most likely going to find me on the Main United Agenda. I'm on there quite a bit, usually a couple times weekly, and then actually in about 5-10 minutes, you're going to catch me on Rich Sports once again. I've been on his channel for a year and a half now. I've actually been a part of his channel, so I'll be on his channel again later in about 10 minutes.
Very nice, very nice. And obviously for yourselves, guys, like, share, and subscribe to the Weekly Armchair. Follow us everywhere. Twitter on Like Sports, which is obviously most appreciated. And obviously we're on our Twitch as well, Weekly Armchair Sports Talk. It has been a very interesting show. Unfortunately, we lost Eilidh earlier on due to internet connection, but she was absolutely fantastic tonight. What's the best way to sum up this show? It's better than Brock Lesnar. Have a good night, guys. See you later.